Come on, Elise. So this is the downside of being Daddy's little girl, big girl. Janelle's right here, sweetie.
We can do this.
If you would open your hymnal to 309, we're going to sing one song in opening. Trying to get our blood flowing again from sitting and eating and talking.
All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him, in His presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Jesus I surrender, humbly at His feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken, take me, Jesus, take me now. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Jesus I surrender. Make me, Savior, wholly Thine. Let me feel the Holy Spirit, truly know that Thou art mine. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Jesus I surrender. Now I feel the sacred flame. Oh, the joy of full salvation. Glory, glory to His name. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kelly. Before we start, let's go ahead and have a word of prayer. Our kind and loving God and Father which art in heaven, Father, we thank you for the things that we have heard so far today, and Father, we thank you for your promptings and the things that need changed, the lifestyles that need tweaked, Father. We thank you that you care so much for us, that you chasten us, that you, as you provide rebuke, you also provide that encouragement, Father, that encouragement, that promise of strength to pull us through these times. Father, we ask that as you have blessed so far today, that you would continue to bless, that your Spirit would be poured up out on this place, that our hearts may be made ready to receive your word. We ask for a special anointing on Brother Cross, that as he opens his mouth this afternoon, that his words will continue to be yours and not his own, and that as your people we may learn more about you and your creation and the things that you've given to us. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
There you go. Can you hear me now? All right. So how are vittles? Good? Yes. Good. Good. So who's ever used herbs? Anybody ever used herbs? Herbs? Yeah. Who grew up with your mom or your grandmother using Vicks? What is the active herb in that? Eucalyptus. Yeah. Whoever swallowed it? Yeah, Grandma will come up. Oh, yeah, you have sore throat, Grandma will get a big old piece of it and say, open your mouth, boy, and swallow this thing slow. Yeah. It works. I mean, you don't want petroleum jelly, but it works. When you look at herbs, there's different ways of using herbs. And it's kind of like, who's ever put up food? Anybody ever put food up? How do you put it up? Canning? Frozen? Dry it? Pardon? Any other way? Okay, apples and sand, taters, you can put up, right, root cellars. Well, herbs are the same way. You can put up your herbs, because if you've got tomatoes, is that going to last the full season until next summer? You've got to put it up. And herbs, to have the best nutritional value, it's better to put them up. Now, you can dry them, and herbs are okay for, say, 6 months, but they don't go bad. They just start losing their potency. Now, what's an herb, a dry herb that y'all use? Oregano, okay. Parsley, basil, rosemary, chives, dill. What? Oh, mullein. Yes, mullein. Sage. Mullein is the best herb for the lungs. That is the best one that I have found for the lungs. And it grows a long time. Now, I don't know when it dies here, but it dies at home in December. And it's going to come out back in the end of February, 1st of March, depending on our winter time. But mullein's phenomenal. The American Indians, the women would take it and they would cut it, and it wasn't Dr. Scholl's who came up with those things, it was the Indians. They would literally put mullein in their moccasins, and it would make them softer. And the old mountain Appalachian women would do the same thing in shoes. What's some more? Peppermint? Spearmint? Chamomile? Lamb's quarter? Lamb's quarter is probably your highest in calcium. Excellent in calcium. Now, nettle is good in calcium, but lamb's quarter is the best that I'm aware of. Who's used nettle? Nettle? Okay. Now, what do you use nettle for? Iron. What else? Lungs. Okay. What else? It's excellent for female hormones. Excellent for female hormones. It's also very, very good for, we probably sell it the most for, and use it the most for allergies. Well, I don't know. Hormones are up there. Between allergies and hormones is what we mostly use it for. Nettle's excellent for building back the adrenals. Stress blows the adrenals, and you can build back the adrenals with nettle. Who has ever got lit up by it? Lit up. Yes. When I was a boy, we just wore short pants when I was a kid. Boys wore short pants. You went to school, you went to church, even going to stores, you just wore short pants, barefooted. And you'd ride your bicycle, And the two things you had to wash were stub toes and when you go around the corner too quick, and the other was going through a nettle patch, and it'd light your legs up. Well, in Asia, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, in those countries, if you get an asthmatic attack and you can't breathe, they will strip your top, male, female, and whoop your chest and whoop your back with nettle. It'll light you up. And then what they do, once it addresses the asthmatic attack, what they'll do is they'll put mud all over your chest and back, and then that will pull the stinging effect out and stop the stinging. What's some other herbs? Now, when I go to northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota, it's very common for the women to go out and cut it, and they put it in their stews, put it in their soups. It's very nutritious. The nettle, yeah. Pardon? Echinacea, okay. What? Milk thistle, excellent for the liver. Best thing I found for the liver. And coriander, yes. So you can do it three major ways. You can dry it and just hang it out like mullein. Who's ever dried mullein? You just hang it out like backer and tobacco, and you just hang it out, and it'll dry. And then but when you dry herbs, you don't want to do it in the sun. You want to do it in the dark. You can take whether we hang it up in the barn, put it in a room that you're not using. Yes, sir.
What about the use of a food dryer?
You don't want it to get too hot. A dehydrator is. You definitely don't want it over 180 degrees. But if you can have it low, you're okay. Yeah, you're okay there. Yes. Another place you can do it, but you got to be careful. An excellent dehydrator is the back window of a car in the summertime. Now, but watch your temperature.
Well, that's sunlight, but does the window shield the danger?
Well, true. Now, I'm thinking like dehydrating your tomatoes and your bananas and that kind of thing. But for your herbs, you don't want to do it in the sunlight. Yes. Another way you can do it is you can get one of them freeze dryers that freezes the food, and that's very, very good. So yes.
When you do that in the dark, of course you probably want it in a well-circulated area so it doesn't mold or...
Yes, exactly. And some plants are more prone to mold. And so you want to be careful how thick you pile it up. Like corn silk. Who's ever dried corn silk? Corn silk is the best herb for the kidneys. You can literally reverse renal failure with corn silk. It's phenomenal. And my great-granddaddy taught me it. He was a veterinarian. Before he became a veterinarian, he was a nurse. He graduated at Florida Sand back in 13. He went to Battle Creek and worked with Kellogg for a period right after he graduated.
Do you just dry it and eat it, or do you just eat it or make tea out of it? Or?
Okay, you can make immediate tea out of it. You can make immediate tea out of it, or you can shuck it. When you're shucking corn, save your corn silk, and then you can. Granddad just put it in a hayloft up there, and who knows what run through it. But you can take a spare bed, and now what you've got to be careful with corn silk is it can mold, is what you're saying. You got to be careful because that's a very wet one. And so you can toss it like you toss hay and then let it dry that way. But if you just lay it down, it's more prone to go bad on you, that mold. And so breaking it up very well, tossing it, and putting it on the bed, it works quite well, yes. So you can dry your herbs like that. They will last for a while, at least a good 6 months. Another way you can do it, and the way you use those herbs is you can put them in teas. You can grind them, put them in capsules. You can make fomentations. You know what fomentations are? You can make a tea, and you can a strong tea, and put it and daub your towel down in it, or piece of linen down in it, and then you can put it over the affected area, and then that herb will transdermally go through. And so if you're using an example, let's say you've got a wound and you want to use a charcoal. You want to make a golden seal. Well, can you imagine getting a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, and making golden seal tea? That would be extremely expensive. And so you can take a small, say a cup, and make it, daub your linen down in it, pull it back up, and then you can place it on top of it transdermally like that. And you're going to have, through the fomentation, it goes into the tissue. And that works quite well. You can also do, who's ever done poultices with herbs? Yeah. You can take onion poultices. Is onion an herb? Yeah. Onion poultices. Tater poultices. Who's done tater poultices? Great for, let's say if you're, anybody ever do any welding? The best thing for welding is a tater poultice. You can do, or if you get burns, excellent for burns. I don't know, were you there when the fellow from Philippines burned his face? This fella, he's from the Philippines, he worked in maintenance, and one of the furnaces wasn't working. So he went and turned the valve off, and it's propane, and he went in and turned the light on in the room, and the light didn't work. Well, he needs to see, so he pulled out his big lighter. Click. And it burned his face, burned all his, all eyelashes, eyebrows, burned his hair, and then his face was plumb burnt. And then it looked like it had stripes on it from flame marks, like a 1957 Chevy, flame on the side. And I mean, it burned him up good. So he came in, and the first thing I did was poured aloe vera on his face. And his face literally soaked up very quickly a quart of aloe vera. And then I told the dietary department, I said, grade me some taters, and like Arch potatoes, and they graded them. And then I went and put the potatoes on there, and then poured aloe on it. And I went back and forth about 5 minutes, every 5, because how do you tell? The taters would get hot. They pull the heat. So I'd have to take it off, and then I put more aloe, and then wait a while, then we'll put more taters. I just went back and forth between those two things. And just put aloe on his eyes, and two little holes for him to breathe through. We did that for 5 hours, taught his wife what to do, and sent him home. The man had zero scarring. The darker the pigmentation, the more prone to scarring. I mean, he literally had burns in his face, no scarring at all. Isn't God good? And that's a potato poultice. So you can use herbs different ways in just their basic form. You can eat them. Just who's ever eaten red clover? Just eat the clover. It's good, and it's very good for you. Then to be able to store them even longer, like canning your alcohol, we have counsel against that. So I'll use vegetable glycerin. And so you'll use vegetable glycerin and distilled water. And you make a mixture of that and put it over your product. And you can either let it sit 30 days, where every day you turn it twice, and then turn it upside down at the end of the day, and then turn it the other way in a dark cabinet for 30 days. If you want extra strength, you strain it out, put more herb in that material, in that extract, and then that's how you have double strength. Or you can take and put it in a crock pot that goes low. I mean low, not low, but low. And you put water in it. Now you have to be careful that the water doesn't run out or to scald your herb. And you put your cans of the extract in there, and in 3 days you're done. You've got extract. So it's very, very fast. Elderberry extract. Anybody do elderberry extract in here? Very good for us. So extract will last 2.5, 3 years. And that works really nice because let's say that you're going on a trip and you've got, let's say you've got renal failure. And so, and if you have renal failure, you need to take the corn silk, and you need to take the dandelion root. Now, liver and kidneys, you use the dandelion root. For the lungs and for legs, like pitting edema, you're going to use dandelion leaf. Works better for getting rid of the fluid. Let's say congestive heart failure. You're going to use the dandelion leaf. It will get the fluid off better. But if you're trying to build liver function, if you're trying to build kidney function, you're using dandelion root. And so if you went on the, let's say I came up here to speak with you, and I'd have to make that tea every day. But with the extract, all you have to do is just have a little bottle. It's in your computer bag, pull it out, take your dropperfuls, you're done. And so it's a lot easier when traveling. And it's a lot easier on just your busy daily schedule, not having to make that tea every day. You're more prone to do it if you have the extract. And again, you're lasting around 2.5, 3 years. If it was a tincture, you're looking at 3.5, 4 years. So it's going to last longer. So what do you do to supercharge your extract? Now, I haven't proven this scientifically, but I have a theory. If you don't want to use alcohol, just ask God to make up the difference. And that's what I do. So that will last longer. Now, if you want to really supercharge your herbs, then you do essential oils. It's going to last a whole lot longer, and it's going to be a whole lot stronger. And as I mentioned, did I mention last night about peppermint? Did I mention that? Yeah, 1 drop of peppermint oil, you have to drink 28 cups of peppermint tea to have the same medicinal benefit. Now, essential oils are either distilled or they're pressed, depending on the essential oil. Now, any herbs you get, people say, well, Walt, where do I get it? What company do I go for? What do I do? Whether it's all herbs. All of these are herbs, whether it's the bulk herb, whether it's the extract, or whether it's the essential oil. We're still dealing with an herb, whatever the item is. So it doesn't matter if you're dealing with the herb, the extract, or the essential oil. You still want to look at some basic criteria on which ones you get. The first one you want to look at is where's it grown. If you want the most nutritious, and if you have the ability to get it from that part of the world, lavender grows the best in Europe. Get your lavender out of Europe because that's where it grows the best. If you want your kudzu, where does it grow the best in the world? Georgia. The southeast, that's right, southeast United States grows better than China, better than Korea, better than Japan, and even though Japan brought it to us at the World's Fair in the 18-something. It was the World's Fair in Chicago. They had the Ferris wheel, whichever one that was. Japan brought it over here, recommended it as a cover, something to soil stabilization, and to hold don't wash away erosion, anti-erosion product. Well, now it grows everywhere, and it'd take over. So if you want kudzu, then come to Alabama, come to Georgia, come to Tennessee. We got good. It grows the best, so it's going to be the most nutritious. You're looking for where in the world that it has the most nutrition in the soil and the climate that product, that plant material is going to be the most nutritious. So that's what you want to look for. The red dirt. The next thing you want to look at is when is it harvested? Is it harvested when it is vine ripe? Now let's say that you like a good Mater sandwich. Is it going to be green? Is it going, when you touch it, fall apart in your hands? No, you want it just right. And then there ain't no better sandwich than a Mater sandwich. And you get it vine ripe. It's going to be the top nutrition. You want your herbs to be harvested when it is at top nutrition. So whoever you buy it from, you want to make sure they understand the science, that they're testing it, that they're not just picking it because it's the time to pick it, but are they testing the chemicals in the herb, in the plant material, they have machines that show the nutrients in it, and you want it when it's the highest. So that's the kind of company you're looking for to get your herbs from. Now, if you're growing your herbs, pray. Ask God to tell you when it's ready to pick. And so that's very important. When you're choosing whether the herb is for just a bulk herb for making tea, or whether it's an extract, or if you're buying essential oils. Those are very important keys. The other thing on essential oils, you want to make sure it's 100%, 100%. Example, helichrysum. Who's heard of helichrysum? Anybody heard of helichrysum? Helichrysum is expensive. It's very powerful, excellent for burns. Works great for burns, but it's expensive. So I have two companies I use in essential oils, and one is about a third of the cost, about a fourth of the cost of the other company. So I was in the town in Maryland starts with a B. Baltimore. I was in Baltimore. Thank you. I was in Baltimore at a convention, and that company was there. And I asked the guy over sales for the whole company, "How are you able to make helichrysum so cheap?" I said, "Well, we just have good marketing." And he's a marketing guy. I said, "Okay, that's not the answer. What percentage is it, helichrysum?" He said, "It's 100% helichrysum." No, that's not the answer. In that bottle, and now not only is it a fourth of the cost, the bottle is like 4 times as big. I said, "What percentage in that bottle is helichrysum?" He said, 10%. You said it was 100%. Well, it is. The helichrysum is 100% of helichrysum that we put in there. That's like saying this room is 100% Walt Cross. Yeah, I'm 100% Walt Cross, but y'all aren't. So be careful with your company that you buy it from that it's 100%, 100%, that it's honest. You know, why are people scared to take essential oils internally, by mouth? It's because the companies know they stick other stuff in there. And so find a company that's 100% pure. Okay, so let's look at some essential oil stuff. Fragrant plants have been used in healing practices for thousands of years across many cultures, including ancient China, India, and Egypt. And this is from National Institute of Health. Y'all have heard of NIH. There are over 200 references of aromatics, incense, and ointments throughout the Old and New Testament of the Bible. Examples: frankincense, myrrh, hyssop, cinnamon, cassia, rosemary, spikenard. The scented liquid taken from certain plants using steam or pressure. Essential oils contain natural chemicals that give the plant its essence, specific odor or flavor. Essential oils are used in perfumes, food flavorings, medicine, and aromatherapy. Essential oils, also known as volatile oils, are the basic materials of aromatherapy. They represent the fragrance essence found in many plants. These essences are made in special plant cells, often under the surface of the leaf, bark, or peel, using energy from the sun and elements from the air, soil, and water. Again, I'm still reading from NIH. When essences are extracted from plants in natural ways, they become essential oils. They may be distilled with steam and or water, or mechanically pressed. Oils that are made with chemical processes are not considered true essential oils. So you want true essential oils. There are many essential oils used in aromatherapy. Each type of essential oil has a different chemical composition that affects how it smells, how it's absorbed, and how it is used in the body. Even the oils from various varieties of plants within the same species may have chemical compositions different from each other. The same applies to that are grown or harvested in different ways or locations. And that's where I was talking about. Yes, there's different ways you can harvest it, but different locations. Very, very important. Where is it harvested? You're going to get, if you have lavender from Tennessee, it's not at all going to be as good as lavender from, and I don't remember what country. Is it France? Okay. I knew it was European. It makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Huge difference. Laboratory studies and animal studies have shown that certain essential oils have antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, calming, or energizing effects. Lavender and tea tree essential oils have been found to have some hormone-like effects. Again, I'm still reading from NIH. Studies in animals show sedative and stimulative effects of specific essential oils, as well as positive effects on behavioral and the immune system. Who's a teacher in here? Anybody teachers? Okay. I know a lady, a science teacher. She will use a diffuser in the classroom to do this and this. The kids are too active, she slows them down. They need to take a test, she brings them back up. Isn't that interesting? Safety testing on essential oils shows very few side effects or risk when they are used as directed. There's a book that looks that any death by chemical has to be recorded. It has to be identified. And it goes to this one location, and they make this huge thick book of every single death in the United States due to a chemical death. I went through that book, every single item, every single death. I looked at every single one. It took a while. But I'd heard something, and I wanted to prove it myself. I didn't want to say something I hadn't checked. There was only one death by an herb. It happened to be an essential oil. And what happened was, it was a young child, about 3 years old, went in and opened up the bottle and drank it. It wasn't the essential oil was on normal dosing, would have been a problem. The child just went and drank it. That is not good. But guess what I also saw? Thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths due to what? Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, that was amazing. Allergic reaction and skin irritation may occur in aromatherapists or in patients, especially when essential oils are in contact with the skin for long periods of time. So there are some essential oils, if you put it directly on the skin, which is called neat. If you put that essential oil directly on the skin, it's called neat. It could burn it, yes? What are some examples? Pardon? Oregano. Yeah, it's the first one I think of. Cinnamon. Could. Oregano. That's the big one right there. I have a friend. He's a physician. Only God saved that fellow. He had a bottle he thought was echinacea extract. It turned out to be oregano essential oil. And he took a big swig of it. He told me, he said, I fell to the floor. His wife wasn't at home. He said, I thought I was going to die. And God preserved him. Yeah, that's amazing. So what do? You can use a carrier oil. My favorite is fractionated coconut oil. But you can use a carrier oil, and that will kind of dilute it to where you can put it on topically. Sun sensitivity may develop when citrus or other essential oils are applied to the skin before sun exposure. So it is true. We'll look at wild orange, tangerine, some of these essential oils. If you put them on the skin and you go out in the sun for within X amount of hours, you can have some challenges there. Okay, different distillation or extraction processes can have dramatic effects on their chemistry and medicinal actions. Are all essential oils equal? No. How are essential oils applied? You can either inhale them. What's an essential oil that you think of inhaling? Eucalyptus. Yeah, that's the big one. Vicks. Remember, Grandma would stick it under your nose, stick it up your nose, put it on your chest, down your throat, whatever. You put it on your feet. On your feet. Feet is a great place to absorb essential oils. If you have a young child, my grandchildren, my kids will put essential oil on the grandchildren's feet, and it will transdermally go in, and it's kind of good and tough there, and it's away from their face or their hands or anything, and it's a great place to put it. Direct inhalation. So indirect inhalation, direct inhalation, and applying essential oils to the skin. Also, what did they leave out? By mouth. NIH did not. What? Oh, in the water? Yeah, so that would be going in the mouth. Now, can I put? You can do whatever, but would it be safe to put an essential oil in this? No, because essential oils will melt the plastic. They'll deteriorate the plastic, and you're drinking plastic then. So don't ever put your essential oils in your water bottle. If it's plastic, you can put it in like a mason jar or glass, metal container, whatever. That's the way I'll do it. How are essential oils applied? You've got topical, which is English model, diluted. Inhaled, which is y'all's German model. And then ingestion is the French model, undiluted. How are essential oils applied? Topical. It can be diluted, mixed with an oil. Fractionated appeared to be the best, and then applied directly to the skin. And fractionated helps in two ways. One, it dilutes it so it's not too what's called hot, but also it can help it as a driver, and so it can actually cause it to go into the skin better. But another thing that the oil will do is when you put an essential oil on the skin neat by itself, you can have 74% approximate evaporation. And so you're just losing it. And so by putting it with a carrier oil, you don't lose as much through evaporation. Undiluted, which is neat, directly applied to the skin with no oil. It's a stronger concentration. It's a therapeutic grade. And you can also put it in your fomentations. When you're doing fomentations, you can either make the fomentation of a tea, or you can put essential oil in your fomentation and use it that way. I have people, when people come into me and they say, "Walt, I don't do water," then what I encourage them to do is get a mason jar. We got plenty of mason jars where I live. And get you a mason jar, put your water in there, and put peppermint essential oil. Peppermint essential oil, 2 drops of peppermint essential oil, I have people tell me, wakes them up better than a cup of coffee. Now, if you want to really wake somebody up, I had this woman one time knocked at my door about, I guess it's 5 something in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was early. We'd gone into work early. And she's knocking on the door. And so I went to the door, and she was one of our church members. And I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "I need your help." I said, "What?" She's a single mom, 2 boys, little boys at the time. We're talking these girls' age. She says, "I have to go to Florida, and I haven't had any sleep, and I need something to keep me awake." I said, "You need to go home and go sleep. Don't kill them boys." I'm kind of straightforward sometimes. I mean, she didn't need to kill them kids falling asleep driving. And she said, "Well, I'm going to Florida. I got to do something. What can you do to help me?" I said, "Okay." So I went and got some cayenne extract, not essential oil, extract. And so liquid. And so I took a water bottle like this, and I put 18 drops in it, shook it up good, and I said, "You nip on this." And I gave her another water bottle. I gave her the bottle of extract, and I said, you drink this all the way to Florida. When she came back, she said, Walt, she said, it kept me awake. It did the job. That was an extract, not essential oil. But I'll have people put in their water peppermint, or wild orange, tangerine, grapefruit, lemon, any of those guys. And many times that works. They go, well, I can drink that. And that's the way I can get people to start drinking their water. Inhalation, diffusing to the air by a diffuser or pot of water through aromatic effect. So you can just take a pot and bring the water to a boil, put it in there, or you can have a diffuser. And diffusers work real well, and that's what that school teacher uses. She uses a diffuser in the room, and she changes different oils to get the different moods out of the kids. And it works for her. You could use lemongrass. Lemongrass is an excellent antiviral. And so you can have that going in the room to kill any viruses if someone's sick. And that way when other people come in, you're killing those viruses. I'm not going to go through these. This is a lot of definitions that we just don't have time to go through. It takes me, I forgot how many hours to do this normally. So we don't do that. Okay, what did she use? Spikenard. Yeah, she used spikenard. Yeah. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. And I want to say, when it talks about the size of it, it was like a pint jar size. Now, can you imagine dumping a pint jar of essential oil? Would that fill the room? Yeah, it filled the room all right. Yeah. The extraction method is steam distill from the rhizomes. That's rhizomes like roots. Common application methods can be applied neat. Now, what's neat? Direct, no carrier, or it can be diffused or inhaled the aroma directly. Now, I'm not going to go into the properties because some of the properties we need to go back and understand the definitions. So we'll just talk about common uses. It's good for aging, anxiety, candida, cellulite, convulsions, depression, detoxing. It's a diuretic. Emotions, gas, indigestion, insomnia. So if you're having problems sleeping. Irritated skin, menstrual issues, muscle spasms. So used as a perfume. It's good for pink eye. Now, I don't know how to use it for pink eye. I'd like to learn that. If they put it on, how they use it, I don't know. Rashes, seizures, stress, tension, ulcers. Now get this. Who knows what the PDR is? Physician's Desk Reference. So the same company that makes the Physician's Desk Reference for pharmaceuticals makes a Physician's Desk Reference for herbal medicine. So I went to that book and looked these up, and this is what it said. Safe for neat application. Now look at all these issues here. Anxiety drugs, are those no contraindications, no side effects, no whatever? You're going to see some. Isn't that amazing? I think it's just cool. Okay, lavender. Lavender is the most popular, most used essential oil in the world. I'm sure all of us have used lavender essential oil. What do you think of lavender being good for? Migraines. Migraines, yes. Burns, yes. Lavender is one of the best things that you can use. If you have a burn, and if I have lavender, that's my top choice, is put lavender on it. Yes. Anything else? Calming, yes. It's used, that's probably the biggest thing it's used. Now, ladies, like the smell of it. Us fellas, it's okay, but y'all like it better than we do. Y'all just, I don't know, it's the way it is. We like the smell of mowed grass better, you know. Extraction method, steam distillation from flowering tops. Common applications can be applied neat, diffused or inhaled aroma directly. It can be taken orally. It can be flavoring in food and beverages. So if, ladies, you can use it, and Mary Lou has a whole row of essential oils in the kitchen for flavoring. But don't put it by the stove. And that's what a lot of folks make mistakes at. They will have their herbs that they flavor with on this spice rack, which is right over the stove, and heat will destroy it. So you want it somewhere else, so the heat doesn't destroy it. That's a lot of properties, y'all. Look at that. Anti-tumor. Someone asked me, was it here? Someone asked me how to use it for cancer. You know, I just thought, someone asked me within the last day or two how to use it, and we got caught on to something else, and I failed to tell them how to use it. Dr. George Fletches, who's the guy who also found out the issue on iodine. Fletches found that if he would use lavender for breast cancer, applied twice a day, obviously it's different amounts based on size, but and if it's one breast, he did both breasts. He did symmetry. And twice a day, it has significant benefit for treating breast cancer. Then he got researching more into National Institute of Health and found that there's a chemical in lavender is the same chemical that they're looking for chemotherapy for breast cancer. Isn't that cool? So he would use this for cancer. I mean, just look at that. It's amazing. Okay, so common uses. Agitation, it calms. Allergies, anxiety. It's excellent for anxiety. I talked about that earlier today. You can put it on your wrist, rub it, and just sit there and breathe it. Or if you have a child that has a lot of anxiety or trying to fall asleep at night, you can put it in the diffuser by the bed, and it will help that child to calm. Appetite loss, arrhythmias, atherosclerosis, bites. Now let's go back. Atherosclerosis. As we look at atherosclerosis, we have to be careful not to treat signs and symptoms. Now, true, it's okay. We're helping these things, but also remember, try to figure out what the root cause is. What's a major cause of atherosclerosis? Diet. Can be diet. Anything else? Lack of exercise? Stress. Inflammation. Now, what causes inflammation? Now, example. I had a good friend. Two good friends, actually. One was a surgeon, did lifestyle medicine. Another one was an educator that toured all over the world teaching and education, agriculture, true education. Both men had perfect diets. Both men exercised. Both men drank water. Both men got sunshine. Both men used temperance, something they didn't use temperance on. Both men had good fresh air. Both men trusted God. Both men were workaholics, working for the Lord. One of them, he'd be up at 2 o'clock in the morning with lights on his garden because he was out in the daytime helping his neighbor cut his wood. Or up at 2, 3 in the morning answering emails from somewhere else in the world, people wanting to help. So, I knew both men very well. They were good friends of mine. Both of them died of heart attacks that killed them instantly. I read one of the autopsies. The autopsy said atherosclerosis. It said he had a clot. He had a blockage. How? I mean, they were vegans. They were, well, actually, I'm not a vegan, y'all. I got leather shoes on. They were total plant-based. So they did everything right except one thing. And I thought, is this one thing, sleep deprivation, a problem? So I started researching in Harvard. You can find a lot of stuff at Harvard. And here's what I found. Sleep deprivation increases inflammation. And you measure that by C-reactive protein test, CRP. So it increases the CRP, inflammation. So as you have elevated inflammation, elevated CRP, it scars and it inflames the walls of the vascular system. Now, both men had normal cholesterol. Now, this is very important. Over 50% of heart attacks, over 50% of heart attack patients that die have normal cholesterol. That's a big thing right there. Both men had normal cholesterol. I know one had atherosclerosis. I don't know about the other one. I didn't read I didn't have a chance to see his autopsy. So what happens is, even if it's normal cholesterol, it comes in and it starts repairing the damage from the inflammation. And it will, after chronically, it will start sticking to the walls. It starts developing plaque. And then as plaque develops, then you can have an occlusion. With an occlusion, you can have a heart attack. So what did both men possibly die from? Sleep deprivation. Yeah. So as we look at atherosclerosis, don't just try to mask and manage using healthy things. Let's get to the root cause. Is it the diet you mentioned? Is it the whatever is causing the inflammation, which is stress or dehydration or whatever is causing the inflammation, sleep deprivation? Get rid of that. Yes, we can use this, but let's also get to the root cause too. We don't want to just mask and manage with healthy things too. Does that make sense? Okay. Bee stings, bites, blisters, boils, soothes the breast, burns, cancer. Cancer. Chicken pox, concentration, convulsions, dandruff, depression, diabetic sores, diaper rash, it's a diuretic, exhaustion, fever, gangrene, gas or flatulence, gnats, it's a repellent, grief or sorrow, dry hair, fragile hair, hair loss, hay fever, herpes simplex, hyperactivity, so you can calm that child down, impetigo, inflammation, insomnia, itching, jet lag, dry lips, mastitis, menopause, mental stress, mood swings. It's a mosquito repellent. I've used it for gnats and mosquitoes. Muscular paralysis, pain, Parkinson's, phlebitis, physical stress, poison ivy, poison oak, post-labor, postpartum depression, rashes, relaxation, rheumatoid arthritis. It's a sedative, seizures, dry skin, sensitive skin, skin ulcers, sleep, helps people sleep, stress, stretch marks, sunburn, just like the burns on, just actual burn. Tachycardia. Tachycardia is a pulse over 100. Teeth grinding, teething pain, tension, thrush, ticks as a repellent, leg ulcers, varicose ulcers, vertigo. It works good for vertigo. Withdrawals, worms, wounds, and rankles. Is that not a mess of stuff? That's a lot. That's another word for mess. I hate this. I had this poor girl come in. She worked in our dietary department. And the dietary director was from Florida, from North Florida, from Lake City. And the little girl, she was a college student. She was out of South Korea. So she sent her down to get beans, some green beans, and down at the farm. So she brought them back in, She says, oh, that's a mess of beans. That little girl started crying. She says, why are you crying? She says, I made a mess. She says, no, you didn't make a mess. It's a mess of beans. That means you brought a lot of them in. Yes?
Yeah, I think I heard Kelly say something about lavender is good for migraine.
Yes.
How would you do that?
Right here. Lavender and peppermint, both are good to put right here. Now, lavender is real good to put behind the ear for vertigo. Now, there's a product out there called D as in dog, Vertigo. And that's the best thing I have found for vertigo. And you can make your own and just look at it and see it's essential oils. And it's phenomenal. Usually within 2 to 5 minutes, usually 2 to 3, the vertigo's gone.
But is that, you could use the same thing for migraine?
Yes. And you can just take lavender and put the lavender here, put it at the base of the neck. Now, on migraines, you want to look at, is there a cause? It could be dehydration. It could be the glasses aren't right for the eyes. It could be a neck needs adjustment by chiropractic adjustment. My son gets migraines. Terrible. I mean, and if he gets an adjustment from the chiropractor, boom, he's immediately, migraine's gone and he does fine. So there's a number of things that causes migraines. It can be allergies. Sure, that's right. So you want to find out the root cause, but you can use the lavender and it does help for some people.
Can you use it because I get ocular migraines a lot of times, so you put it on when you...
Yeah, put it back over here, not too close to the eyes. Yeah, back on the temporal area, more on the temporal area. Mm-hmm. It's worth a try. And again, check hydration. Also, constipation can cause migraines because it's just toxins. Now see how dangerous it is. Safe for neat applications. When in doubt, use lavender. Isn't that amazing? That's PDR. So you don't have to worry about, that was a lot of stuff it's good for. And God's FARMACY. Now, does it mean that we don't have to research? Absolutely, you have to research. Because, an example, let's say we're using hawthorn berry, and you're on a cardiac med. Most people say, oh, you can't take it with cardiac meds. No, you can. Monitor the blood pressure. The cardiac meds can cause the blood pressure to drop. Hawthorn berry can cause the blood pressure to drop. And so what you do is you monitor the blood pressure, and if it's starting to drop, decide which one you're going to cut back on. Look, hawthorn is phenomenal. It is the best herb for the heart. Both for the heart muscle, also for the electrical process of the heart. Also, hawthorn berry has 3 different types of functions of like blood pressure medication. So it works very, very well for blood pressure. So when you use it, there's some things you have to be wise on what you're doing and just be cautious. Eucalyptus. We talked about that earlier, which is in Vicks. Steam distillation from leaves can be applied neat or diluted 1-to-1 for children and those who have sensitive skin with some type of a carrier oil. Or you can diffuse it or inhale it, the aroma directly. Now, I learned from a good friend of mine, actually 2 surgeons, that you could actually nebulize it. Did I talk about that last night? Okay. So you can nebulize it. And it works better than albuterol. Uses asthma, bronchitis. It's also used for cancer. Now, it doesn't show it on the essential oils, but the one that I do on herbs. Herbs that kill cancer are blood purifiers. Blood purifiers are cancer killers. Yes, sir.
How would you, as far as nebulizing that eucalyptus, just pure or straight or?
No. So when you nebulize it, you take your nebulizer and you put your, say if you're using distilled water, then you put 4 drops of eucalyptus. Now, the
tablespoon in that, maybe a tablespoon?
oh, how much water?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. In your nebulizer bowl, it's going to have lines.
Yes.
You put it up to the top line. And then you'll put 4 drops of the eucalyptus essential oil. Again, make sure it's pure. It uses electrolysis. The new nebulizers use electrolysis. So let's go back to, who took chemistry? Anybody take chemistry? Okay, let's go back to chemistry class. Do you remember when the professor went and took a flask and he put in distilled water, and then he put a 110 current in the bottle, and then he went and took and put a wire from a light, and he put the other one in neutral, and the light did not light because there was no mineralization for the electricity to cross on. And so then he starts pouring salt in there. And as he poured salt in there, the light started coming on. And the more salt he put, the brighter the light got. And then he started putting more started putting distilled water in there, and the light started getting dimmer. So as you use a nebulizer, if it's one of the new ones, you may find that distilled water and some of the essential oils will not nebulize. You have to put a couple pieces of, say, salt in it, like the pink salt or the Himalayan. Yeah, it's one of the salts. That then causes the mineralization so that it will start nebulizing. There's so much I want to share with y'all. There's just not enough time. Let me share something really important. Our body is current, has current in it. If it didn't, you couldn't do an EKG. So what we've learned is you can measure conductivity in the body. Conductivity, the amount of current. And the way the professor explained it to us, let's say you've got a blow dryer and you hook it to your car battery. Is it going to run on 12 volts? No, it's not going to run. Now, if you plug it into this receptacle over here, it's going to run good. But let's say you go to Africa. You're going to burn it up. It's 220 volts. Or Australia or Germany. It's going to burn up. Well, the same thing is happening in the body. Our current can get too high or it can be too low. And there's 2 things that affect the current in our body. And that is how much water we have. So if we're dehydrated, do you think you have a higher conductivity or a lower conductivity? Higher. Because the mineralization is higher. Yes. So there's more. So as you look at the concentration of mineralization, it's going to be more. Therefore, the current, just like in that light bulb, it is going to cause more conductivity. When you have a high conductivity, it makes you much more prone to cardiovascular disease and other many health issues. Now, if you drink too much water, what's it going to be? It's going to be too low. And now it doesn't work right either. So you got to have the right amount of hydration. But you also want to look at your salt or other minerals. So if you have too much salt or mineralization, your conductivity is going to be high. If you don't have enough salt or enough mineralization, your conductivity is going to be low. So you've got to have the right level of water and minerals for the body to run well. And that's very, very important for to making a person a healthy body. Just something to share there. Eucalyptus, asthma, bronchitis, cancer, cellulite, colds, congestion, coughs, disinfectant, dust mites, earaches, fever, the flu, kidney stones, malaria, mental sluggishness, muscle fatigue, pain, pneumonia, respiratory problems, shingles. And the best thing I have found for shingles is 800 milligrams of olive leaf extract 3 times a day. 800 milligrams of olive leaf extract 3 times a day. And then B complex 100, 3 times a day. And then on the actual shingle in the area, a lot of times it's through this area, especially on females. You take and make a castor oil pack, and place it on there. It will dry it up. Even if they're dried up, it will help with the pain. It's the best thing I found for shingles. Works very, very well. And Dr. Agatha, who remembers Dr. Agatha Thrash? I learned so much from that lady, and that's one of the things she taught me. Works well.
How much of the B vitamin?
B100, 1 each meal. So a B complex 100. So 100 means some of the in a B complex, some are in micrograms and some are in milligrams. An example: B2, B3, they're B6, they're milligrams. B12 is micrograms. So it's 100 of everything except folic acid, and that's probably 400. And so a B100, 1 each meal. And here's what happens: the olive leaf is antiviral. That kills the virus of the shingles. Many times, people who have shingles, stress exacerbates the shingles. And so B complex helps to manage the stress. And then the castor oil pack just helps dry up and helps with the pain of the shingle itself. Pardon? 800 milligrams of olive leaf extract 3 times a day. 800 milligrams olive leaf extract 3 times a day.
Malaria, how much would be recommended? Like we're going over to Africa in March.
I can't answer that question. I do know, though, on olive leaf extract, it's used by Seventh-day Adventists who go on mission trips, by Baptist organizations who go on mission trips from this country with malaria. When I go to Africa, that's what I use. I use it. So you do 800 milligrams twice a day for the month prior to and the whole time you're there. Now, does it totally prevent it? No. I have a friend who's a doctor. He went over there. His wife got malaria and died. And he used this process. But for most people, it works. Nothing's 100% on the drug side or on the natural side. Yeah. Olive leaf extract, 800 milligrams twice a day. So how would I use the eucalyptus? I don't know. You could definitely inhale it. I don't know if using it topically would be a benefit also or not. You could definitely inhale it. Yeah. If you want to treat malaria, probably one of the best things to treat it is MMS. MMS is tremendous on treating malaria. It's cheap, very effective on malaria. Oh, sinusitis. The best thing I have found for sinusitis, who's ever used a far infrared? You have. How do you use it?
My mom had a lot of issues in her sinuses, and she would use it every day. She'd had a heat lamp, and she would use it, and it would help her greatly to even be able to breathe and to get her energy up.
It's the best thing I found. It works great. I used to use an incandescent light bulb. I learned from Dr. Thrash, but the far infrared blows the doors off the incandescent. Hold it about 8. It says to use 11 inches. Why not 12? I don't know, but it says 11 inches off the bridge of the nose. It works for rhinitis, sinusitis. Gone. It's amazing. It's tremendous. In China, they use it for cancer in the hospitals, and they use it in Korea, South Korea, and in Japan. They use it for reversing cardiovascular disease. It increases the nitric acid. Yeah.
How long do you use it?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes at one time a day? Or?
Yeah, you can use it longer if you want to. How long she use it?
I believe it was just like 15 to 20 minutes twice a day, like in the morning and at night.
That's pretty well standard. It also increases nitric oxide. So that's good for cardiovascular, for the the endothelial cells. Yeah. Safety, dilution recommended, possible skin sensitivity. So if you put it on, you may want to dilute it with a carrier. 1-to-1. Or if you have super, go 1-to-2, whatever works. Peppermint. Who's used peppermint essential oil? Peppermint essential oil is a really good essential oil. Which one did I say earlier works like coffee? Okay, good. I want to make sure I told you the right one. That's correct. Steam distilled from leaves can be applied neat or distilled. Diffuse or inhale aroma directly, orally, flavoring in fruit or food or beverages. Alertness, allergies, asthma, autism, bad breath, burns, colon health. It's tremendous for colon health. So is spearmint. Spearmint is also very, very good for colon health. So if you get a person who has IBS, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, peppermint is very good to help to heal the colon. Cravings. So if you have food cravings or whatever, write this down, y'all. Write this down. It's called Smoker's Blend. But I use it for drugs, for people coming off meth, coming off cocaine, whatever. I use it for people coming off alcohol, for alcoholics. It's called Smoker's Blend. I ought to call it Addiction Blend. But see, it also works for cravings, food cravings, whatever. So what it is it's 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice, 3/4 a cup of lemon juice. And you can buy that lemon juice in the grocery store, you know how they, in the refrigerated section. 1/4 of a cup of honey. Be careful on your honey. In our neck of the woods, they like to cut it with high fructose corn syrup and stuff like that. Make sure it's pure 100% honey. And then 1/3 teaspoon of peppermint essential oil. Peppermint essential oil. So it's 3/4 of a cup of honey, of lemon juice, 1/4 of a cup of honey, and 1/3 of a teaspoon of peppermint essential oil. Mix it up good. Take a nip anytime you got a hankering. Works extremely well. Y'all know what a nip and a hankering is? A nip is just a little bit. A hankering is a desire for. Yes. Yes. That's it. So her question is, does it help for people who want to stop smoking? It does. So when they have that desire. See, when people smoke, for every pack of cigarettes, they're doing this 300 times a day on average. And so you've got that that oral stimulation, hand-mouth thing. And so using toothpicks is good to chew on. When I started doing stop smoking programs was in 1978. And who was real popular on Wednesday nights? He was a bald-headed guy, and he was a detective. What was he always sucking? A lollipop. So we told folks, swap the lollipop cigarette, and use the lollipop. Well, that wasn't good, because when you quit smoking, the tongue clears off, they start tasting food a whole lot better, and they start getting heavier. Now we're sticking lollipops in their mouth all day. Well, that's not good. So then we went to carrot sticks, celery sticks. That's still food. So then we started using toothpicks, like tea tree oil toothpicks, that they could chew on, and that oral stimulation. And then for that desire, this right here, the Smoker's Blend, it works tremendous. Works very well. Just take a nip anytime you get a hankering, and it works well. Again, it works for drugs, and I found it to work good for alcohol. And then, but what happens is people will go and they'll go, can I keep doing it afterwards? Yeah, you can. It's safe. It's not a problem. Digestive discomfort. Peppermint is excellent for digestive issues. If you do a gallbladder liver cleanse, who's ever done a gallbladder liver cleanse? And so let's say that you're doing the 3 ounces olive oil, 3 ounces lemon juice, piece of ginger size of your thumb, blend it up, and take it and lay on the right side on the heating pad for 1 hour. In my neck of the woods, it doesn't bother people because we fry everything. Maters, taters, ice cream, pickles, cheese, ochre, pigs, chickens. We fry everything. We fry Oreo cookies. We fry everything. And if we don't fry it, we pour in oil. My grandmother, she'd make a big old pot of green beans, and she put more than a cup of vegetable oil in it. And so in the South, our culture is a lot of oil. So when these people do this treatment, 3 ounces, that's nothing for them. So it doesn't bother them at all. But if a person ate like we do, you might get a little nauseous, say 3 to 4 hours after doing that gallbladder liver cleanse. And so drinking some peppermint tea will help to get rid of that nausea. Works very, very well. Let's see here. All right, cravings. Energy. It is good. You can take essential oil, put it back here, and or put some in your water. It does increase energy. For fevers, gamma radiation exposure, gastritis. Again, any of those digestive issues, peppermint's really good for. Headaches, hives, hot flashes, loss of sense of smell. And people are telling me that they're using peppermint when they lose their smell with COVID, and when they start using did it work for you?
I use peppermint and eucalyptus.
Okay, good. They would get their smell back.
Same with me. I've lost my smell. And I'm starting to get it back. The first 4 essential oils they tell you to use for the first 3 months are eucalyptus, rose oil, lemon oil, and lavender.
Okay, good. Excellent. So a couple more we can use. Good. Let's see here. Memory, migraines. It decreases milk supply. Remember I told you nursing is huge for me because it's so important. And so many of our girls, and in our low income, doesn't matter if they're white or black, in my area, the girls will not want to nurse because they equate nursing with not having enough money to buy formula. So they want to show they got enough money, so they get formula. They don't want to look poor and breastfeed. That's sad. Sad. Both cultures are doing it. It's so sad. So if they are nursing, don't use peppermint because it can decrease milk supply. Muscle stiffness, sinusitis, dilute for topical applications. Avoid at night. Why do you avoid at night? It gives energy. Yes.
I wanted to say something.
Yes.
We had COVID also, and we were doing research on essential oils. We also have pets, and I wanted to read something really quick because I had to look this up.
Yes.
Many essential oils, such as eucalyptus, tea tree oil, cinnamon, citrus, peppermint, pine, wintergreen, and yang yang, are straight up toxic to pets. These are toxic whether they are applied to the skin, used in diffusers, or licked up in the case of a spill. So when we were doing ours, we would always make sure we went upstairs to a different room and breathed it in. But I just wanted to say,
thank you.
I know you didn't
appreciate
mention that, but some people do have
Yes.
pets.
Thank you very much. We see more of a sensitivity in cats, but cats are smart. A lot of times they just go to another room. But you're right. You want to be careful with essential oils, especially around cats, but even dogs. You want to be careful. Or any of the pets, be careful with essential oils. Thank you very much. I haven't missed that. Yes? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, let her ask the question.
Peppermint's good for keeping rodents and squirrels, raccoons away, too.
That's exactly right. Now, if you've got boa constrictors, that's not good because you feed the mice or rats to your snakes. But I sell the most peppermint essential oil to people to keep squirrels out of their attics, mice out of their drawers and wherever. So it works excellent to repel them. Also, it works for snakes. It works very good for at the far hall. We'll get spiders, and so Walter will take a quart spray bottle, put water in it, put peppermint essential oil in it, shake it up, and spray it, and we don't get spiders. So it's good for a number of things to keep those varmints away. Yes. Yeah. But thank you for bringing up about the animals for all essential oils. Very important. Thank you. Lemon. Extraction method, cold express from the rind. Common applications can be applied neat. Avoid direct UV light for up to 12 hours after using this on the skin. Remember, we talked about that earlier. Diffuse it, inhale it. It can be oral, capsules, beverage, or cooking. Did y'all use essential oils a lot in Germany? Did you use it medicinally?
Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah. I know my friend Sam Stutz, or whatever it is. Thank you. He's big into herbs and essential oils and that kind of thing, and he would prescribe those, and hydrotherapy, which we're going to talk tomorrow about hydrotherapy. And hydrotherapy really got its traction in the 1813, 1815 in Germany. Pardon? Knight, yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's who we learned from. That's who Kellogg learned from, was the Germans. And then by 1850s, there was over 75 hydrotherapy clinics in the United States. But who do we learn from? It was the Germans. Y'all were the ones that were so good in that area. But I know Sam, he's big into using herbs and essential oils. Allergies, arthritis, concentration, congestion. Who's ever used this in degreaser? My son, he uses it if he's got a pen mark or the kid's got crayon or whatever. Have you ever seen lemon in cleaners? Yeah. It's lemon essential oil. And that will take stains out. Works very good for stains. It's also a good degreaser at the kitchen sink. Edema, furniture polish, gallstones, and we talked about gallbladder cleanse. Gout. Gout, the biggest thing on gout is get rid of the cause. Big cause on gout is meat, and it doesn't have to be just red meat. It can be chickens, it can be pigs, it can be turkey, any meat, fish, any of the animals can cause gout. The uric acid. The next big thing is beans, legumes. Now, if it is green beans, we haven't seen the problems. Have you found green beans okay? I'm talking to the nutritionist back there, our German nutritionist. Have you found a problem? I know legumes, yes, but green beans, like string beans, have you had problems with string beans?
No, normally not.
Okay.
That's normally fine. In legumes, you have certain chemicals which the body cannot digest when it's not heated up and not cooked.
Yes. Your meat, your legumes, sugar. Sugar's huge. I've got a friend who's a registered dietitian, and her husband's our state representative, and she came in one day. She goes, Walt, this is several years ago, she said high fructose corn syrup is really messing with gout. What's sugar? Alcohol. Well, alcohol, sugar. Some people oatmeal, some people spinach, but the big guys are sugar, beans, legumes, and fish, meat, and some people oatmeal and spinach. The best thing I found to treat it is cherry juice, and the other one that works extremely well is celery seeds. Celery seeds, either a teaspoon or 3 capsules twice a day, and that works also very good for gout. Heartburn, lemons. Why? Because it affects the hydrochloric acid. Kidneys, liver and kidney detox. Lymphatic cleanse. Mucus increases the pH in the body. Reflux, again, what we just talked about. Rheumatism, sinus drainage, varicose veins, and water retention. Did we have any counsel on using lemons? every morning in warm water and drink it down. Now, the warm water stimulates peristalsis, the bowels to move. Drinking that pint of water or quart of water all at once causes free flow, so it cleans the urinary tract. And the lemon, anti-inflammatory, helps with the pH, antiviral, and so the lemon has all kinds of good benefits, as we just saw. And Mrs. White said we should drink lemon water every morning. We had that this morning.
How much lemon in a pint?
You can just squeeze a lemon. Just squeeze one. Oh, how much lemon in a pint? Just squeeze one lemon. Mm-hmm. Now, for your listeners that aren't here, that may be in other countries, in the Caribbean and South America, they'll use limes. And it doesn't, there's a lot of same benefit, but when you look at the nutritional value of lemon and limes, lemons has a little bit better nutrition, but limes can be used. Like in your gallbladder liver cleanse. Instead of the lemons, you can use limes. And let's say you're out doing mission work. You're in Africa or wherever doing mission work, and you want to do a gallbladder liver cleanse, and you don't have olive oil, because some places you just can't find olive oil. So what you can do is use, instead of 3 ounces of olive oil, you can use 2 ounces of coconut oil. 2 ounces of coconut oil replacing the 3 ounces of olive oil will do the same thing to backflush the liver, backflush the gallbladder to get rid of the whatever the problem is with the liver or the gallbladder. Gallstones. I had this guy call me one time. He was in Czech. He was in, is it now Czech or Czechoslovakia? Is it Czech Republic? Okay, he was in Czech Republic, and he was speaking. He was a psychologist, and he got a really bad gallbladder attack at Heathrow. Took him to the hospital. Well, then I guess our insurance didn't work too good over there, and so they stabilized him, put him back on the airplane, shipped him across 8 hours across the ocean, sent him to UVA. When he got home, they said his gallbladder was plumb full of gallstones. Had to immediately have it taken out. So he says, I want a second opinion. So he called me and he said, Walt, can you help me with gallstones? I said, come on. So he came up. We did a gallbladder liver cleanse, and then he went back to UVA, University of Virginia, there in Charlottesville, and there was no gallstones, plumb gone. And he kept his gallbladder. Avoid direct sunlight for up to 12 hours after topical application. We talked about that on citrus. Wild orange. Cold press from the Rhine. Common application methods. Can be applied neat. Avoid direct sunlight for up to 12 hours. Again, it's a citrus. Diffuse or inhale aroma directly, orally, capsules, beverages, and cooking. Isn't that interesting? Anti-carcinoma. Anxiety, colds, concentration, cooking, depression, detox, fear, heartburn, insomnia, irritability. There's a bunch of folks need that. Lack of energy, menopause, scurvy, sluggish bowels, and stress. Again, avoid the 12 hours. Tea tree is probably another major essential oil that people use. And we think of tea tree mostly for what? Colds, antiviral, skin issues. If you got a boil or a boil, y'all know what a boil is? A boil. And you want it to come to a head, and you're going to put a charcoal poultice on it. Put tea tree oil on it. And then put your poultice, and it will bring it to a head a lot faster, and so you can get over the pain faster. But tea tree oil is great for skin issues. It can be applied neat, diffused, inhaled, taken in capsules. Look at this: antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, antiseptic, antiviral. Is that not amazing? That's huge. Acne, athlete's foot. Tea tree oil is really good for athlete's foot, and so is oil of oregano. Do y'all know what, what's it called? Toe jam is? Do y'all have toe jam up here? What do y'all call it?
When you hit the piano.
No. Toe jam is where you don't wash your feet good and wear them same socks all the time, and you get this slimy stuff in between your toes. Y'all ever? And it stinks terrible. You ever seen toe jam? Well, what you do is you clean it. And then you can either use tea tree oil or you can use oil of oregano. But do not use oil of oregano neat. Use it a 1 to 3. 1 part oil of oregano, 3 parts olive oil. Mix it well. It's still going to sting pretty good. But it will plumb wipe out toe jam and athlete's foot. It works very, very well. Y'all keep your feet cleaner up here, I guess. It's good for bacteria, bronchitis, candida, canker sores. Always when you have oral sores, yes, you can use salt, you can use tea tree, you can use a number of things. But with oral sores, look to the digestive system disorder. A lot of times it's something going on in the stomach or in the colon that's causing the sores in the mouth. So go down to the root cause. It's not always, but a lot of times. Cavities. What do you think for cavities for pain? Clove. Yeah, that's another hot one. Yeah, that'll burn you good. Cold sores, colds, cuts, dandruff, diarrhea. Ear infections, flu, gum disease, hives, itchy eyes, lice. Y'all get lice up here? Usually in September, the mamas start coming in. Either kids got lice or they don't want their kids to get lice. And so if they have lice, what you do is you get those little combs and you comb out those little nits. Thank you. And then you just take and pour that tea tree oil all on there and just work it in real good. It's not going to hurt them. You can put it neat. You don't have to mix it with anything. Just really put it on there good and leave it on for about 30 minutes. And then you're going to wash it off. And it will plumb kill them. They're gone. And then you can buy shampoo that is tea tree shampoo. Don't buy that stuff. It's in plastic. So what's that telling you? You're now getting plastic in your hair stuff. But it's not very strong. And so just take your regular shampoo, put it in your hand, and then put several drops of tea tree oil in there, and then wash that kid's head every day. It will prevent the lice, and then if they've had lice, it'll prevent them from coming back. But tea tree is the best thing. I've never had it not wipe out the lice. Poor moms. They'll drag that kid in the store with lice all over my head, start stitching. Just thinking about it. But they just don't think, I guess, sometimes. But it works extremely well. MRSA, pink eye. I don't know how to use that in pink eye. The best thing I found for pink eye. Now, who's all grown up with cows? Anybody have cows? Anybody have cows? So what Dad would do if you get in, let's say you go to the stockyard and you buy a cow and she's got pink eye and you didn't notice it. Well, what you do, you come up behind that cow not looking, and you toss salt in her eye, and it would kill the pink eye. Now, you don't do that to people, but you can do normal saline solution, put saline solution in there, and that will help with the pink eye. But the best thing I found for pink eye is charcoal. I'm sorry, you can do a charcoal poultice, but the best thing is golden seal tea. 1 teaspoon of golden seal. The ratio is, you don't have to use that much, but 1 teaspoon of golden seal to a cup. So if you do a half a cup, it'd be half a teaspoon to half a cup. And all you do is make you a tea and let it simmer for about, make it, you want to make you've got infusions and you have decoctions. An infusion is where you just let it, you bring the water to a boil, plumb turn it off, put in your herb into the water, and then just let it sit there for 30 minutes to overnight. That's an infusion. A decoction is where more aggressive things like roots and hard berries and bark, then you let it simmer for 20 minutes. But gentle things, tender things, like flowers and leaves, you do an infusion. So you do with the golden seal, if it's the root, not the powder, then you will do a decoction. But if you have the powder already, just do an infusion. And then you just take, usually a lot of times just one dose will do it. It doesn't take a lot. You take it and you get the person to lean over the kitchen sink, and you take you could use an eyedropper if you wanted to, but I just take a spoon and I just pour it in their eye. Just pour it in there real good, and be careful. It can stain their clothing, so be careful there. But the golden seal tea is excellent. It's the best thing I found for pink eye. But apparently tea tree oil is good for it, but I don't think I'd put the oil in the eye. I'd have to do reading on that. Rashes, it is good for rashes, scabies. I use about 6 different essential oils. Who has the Natural Remedies Encyclopedia? Anybody have that? On around page 371, it talks about scabies. And as you go in there, it's got about 6 different essential oils. Those are the best. Use that combination of those 6 essential oils, and it will wipe out scabies. It works good. Shock, that also works good for bed sores, bed bugs. Shock, sore throat. The best thing I found for sore throat is you could do salt or slippery elm. You take the 1 teaspoon of slippery elm powder, put it in your water, shake it up good, and sip as you're drinking your water. And you've heard of slippery elm lozenges before? Well, that's all you're doing. And so as you're drinking your water, put that in all your water bottles, and it is the best thing I found for soothing a sore throat. Works extremely well. Staph infections, tonsillitis, viruses, and wounds. Look at this. All of those items and no contraindications. God is good, isn't He? Tremendous. Vetiver. Now, I talked about Vetiver this morning. It's one of my favorite. For stress, that and lavender are the best that I have found for really a person who has a major issue of anxiety, for taking care of it. Steam distilled from the root. Common application methods can be applied neat, diffused, or inhale aroma directly. So what does that mean? If you have a person who has propensity to anxiety, put it in a diffuser. Put your lavender in there, put your vetiver in there, and as they're breathing it, it's going to help them with that problem of anxiety. Okay, ADD and ADHD, now I don't think they use ADD anymore, is that correct? It's only ADHD today? Didn't they do away with ADD definition? I think so. Anorexia, anxiety, breast enlargement, concentration, depression, focus, insomnia, irritability, learning difficulties, poor retention, postpartum depression. On postpartum depression, according to Harvard, the big issue on postpartum depression is estrogen levels are still off. You stabilize the estrogen and you'll stabilize the postpartum depression. PTSD, Vetiver is called the PTSD essential oil because it works so well. Scarring, you can put that on neat. Stretch marks, again topically. Tuberculosis and vitiligo. Look at this. Again, totally safe. Now, this is the one, if in question, use frankincense. Frankincense, it just works for everything, just about. Frankincense is a bit on the expensive side if you have a good quality. Who's ever bought frankincense herb powder? Has anybody ever bought that? It's very inexpensive, but it's extremely dry. I mean, it's like on the negative side of dry. I mean, it's amazing. And because it's so dry, it takes so much of it to make an essential oil. And so that's why it's so expensive. And myrrh also can be, myrrh can be a little more liquid, moist, but myrrh is also expensive. Frankincense, steam distilled from the gum and resin, can be applied neat, diffused, or inhaled aroma directly. It's also used orally. Frankincense is excellent for using on cancer. Dr. Fletches started using frankincense, and for breast cancer, he started applying, along with the lavender, putting the frankincense also on there. Frankincense will pass across the blood-brain barrier. So for brain cancer, we use it. So you can apply it to the back of the skull. You can also put it on your thumb and hold it there. It will go into the brain. And so it is used for brain cancer. Look at this. Anti-carcinogenic. Look at that. Amazing. Amazing. And that's one of the items that was given to Jesus by the wise men. It's for good for allergies, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune disorders, back pain, brain injury, breast cancer prevention. And so Dr. Fletches had all of his female patients use, he recommended to his female patients to both use the iodine, 12.5 milligrams of iodine every day, because that's very good to prevent breast cancer. It's all for us guys. It's good to prevent prostate cancer. It's also good for thyroid. It's also good for the immune system. But also, you can put frankincense applied to the breast topically also every day to help prevent breast cancer. Also, frankincense is just plumb good for cancer, any kind of cancer. Cellular health, congestion, cough, dementia, focus, headaches. It increases it's good for the immune system. Jaundice, liver detoxification, scars, sciatica, seizures, stretch marks, trauma, tumors, warts. Wound healing, I use frankincense in my wound healing. And just to share with you what my wound healing formula is, it works very, very good. I wish I could show you some pictures. Maybe I can do that tomorrow, some wounds. It's amazing. I love working with wounds. Wounds, number one, nutrition. Is that right? You got to have good nutrition to heal a wound. Number two, they can't smoke. If they smoke, causes vasoconstriction. You don't have good perfusion. Hydrotherapy. But if it's a bad wound, you can't do hot and cold, but you can do warm and cool. You still have contrast. And the formula I use is I'll do 1 part frankincense, 1 part myrrh, 1 part golden seal. Again, that's 1 part frankincense, 1 part myrrh. Those are all powders. 1 part golden seal powder. And then I'll do, if I have it, 1 part pine sap. And then I'll do about 1.5 to 2 parts aloe vera gel. Aloe vera gel. I want the consistency of pancake batter. Pancake batter. Because I'm going to apply it to the wound like painting. Not like what we used to do with betadine and brown sugar where you pack it. But I want to paint it on there because in 12 hours I'm going to do another hydrotherapy and I want it coming off. I don't have to deal with all that cakey stuff on there. That's painful to take that off. And so I just want it to come off easy. So by just painting it on there, on that wound, not packing it. And then if it's infected, put a charcoal poultice. It's phenomenal how well it heals wounds. Again, who heals wounds? God heals the wounds. So I'm not saying it every time, but so that I just remind us it's not this, it's God, but God blesses this. And He's given us these. But look at this. No major concern here. So look at what it's good for. Look at the medication that's given to kids for focus. Would that doctor be willing to take Redlin? How about cancer? Would that doctor be willing to take chemotherapy? No. But you can take frankincense. It's not going to hurt you. Bergamot from the rind or the peel can be applied neat. Avoid direct sunlight for 72 hours. So this one's longer than the 12 hours. Diffuse or inhale aroma directly. Can be put in food for flavorings. Antibacterial, antidepressant, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, digestion. It's just amazing. Acne, addictions, appetite loss, bronchitis, coughs, eczema. The biggest thing I have found for eczema to be, instead of just treating it, and that's Dr. Thrash taught me, and that is being totally gluten-free, unless you're in Europe, because they have the 14 and 16 chromosomes. They don't have the glycosides, the Roundup, and so in the EU, now you can't trust England now because England's no longer in the EU, so you don't have that law preventing England. But in the EU, it's illegal for them to super hybridize. It's illegal for them to use Roundup, and so you can eat that wheat. Did I talk last night about going through Frankfurt? I told you about it, yeah. So about a year ago, I went through Frankfurt, and a little over a year ago, I guess. And I was coming back from Africa, and I stopped in Frankfurt and at the airport, and I got a couple buns of bread. And as I got back home, I gave Mary Lou the receipts, and she was filing it away, and she was looking to see what I'd gotten. And she said, "Why did you get 2 buns of bread in Frankfurt?" I said, "Because I could. It doesn't bother me because it's European wheat. It's not the super hybridized stuff we have here." And so as you look at eczema, I find the best thing to deal with eczema, psoriasis, rosacea is to be totally gluten-free. Dr. Thrash said that just eating one cracker, one bite of birthday cake, will kick on eczema for as much as 2.5 months. There are some doctors that even say longer that it will kick it on. So as you look at eczema, look at being gluten-free if you're eating American products or non-European products. And even in Africa, I was talking with the guy who's in charge of seeds that are used in Rwanda and the trees that are in Rwanda. That's his job. He works for AGRA. And so I talked to him about, are you looking at hybridization? Are you looking at super hybridization? Are you looking at Roundup? He goes, "Yeah, we're looking at it." I said, "Don't look at it. Don't do that to your people." Fungal issues, infections, insomnia, joint issues, muscle cramps, oily skin, psoriasis, and stress. Another one that works good for psoriasis and eczema is calendula or calendula. Who's heard of calendula or calendula? Excellent. It's a flower. It's in the same family as marigolds. It's also, calendula is good for the eyes. It has lutein in it, and so it's going to be good for the eyes. Avoid direct sunlight for up to 12 hours, topical application. Cedar wood. How long are we going? What do y'all want? Okay. Y'all just let me know. I can just keep going, but I don't want to. Cedar wood. Who's used cedar wood? Cedar trees? What do you think a cedar tree is good for? Keep the bugs away. Yeah, I use cedar wood when I go out work in the garden to keep the gnats and skeeters off of me. I'll put it on my hat and or on my clothes, and it keeps the bugs off of me. Yeah. Steam distilled from the wood. Dilute with a carrier oil for children and those with sensitive skin. Cedar wood can be what we call a hot oil, like your clove can be a hot oil. So you can mix it. Diffuse or inhale the aroma directly. Acne, ADD or ADHD, anxiety, bladder infections, calming, cough, eczema, GABA, if you have low GABA levels. Now, here's something else can raise your GABA levels. And you'll find this one interesting in nutrition. If you take your brown rice and soak it overnight and then rinse it the next morning. Soaking rice overnight will increase GABA in the rice. So that can be a benefit if you're looking for GABA. Gum issues, insect repellent, psoriasis, seizures. Okay, let's talk seizures. So I'm in a care plan. You all know what care plans are, where you talk about patient care. So we're in a care plan. Patient comes in. She's an epileptic. And my nurse from Romania, when we finished that patient, going to the next patient, she goes, wait a minute, you didn't talk about biting them. Biting them? What are you talking about? She says, don't you bite your patients with epileptic seizures? It needs to be put in the care plan. If they have an epileptic seizure, a grand mal seizure, you need to bite them. And I said, we don't bite patients here. And so I thought, well, this is over. Then I had a therapist behind me from Korea. And she says, you don't bite them? I go, great. I said, do you bite them in Korea? I enjoy this stuff. It's so much fun to work with people. And she said, yeah, we bite them. And I said, tell me what's going on here. Well, if they have an epileptic seizure or a grand mal seizure, you bite them. And so I go back to the nurse, the Romanian. I say, okay, what do you do? So we got some validation here. I said, what do you do? She says, you just take your lab coat and you take it and you stick it over the finger and you bite it, their little finger. Wow. And the Korean goes, yeah, that's what you do. Well, a couple months later, I had 2 Romanian physicians come and do a locum tenens with us, husband and wife. So they came in the office and, they're introducing themselves and I'm talking to them and I go, I need to find out, is this real stuff or not? And I said, what do you do for an epileptic seizure in the hospital in Romania? And both of them go, you bite them. You gotta be kidding. And the wife goes, the lady physician, now the husband, he's internal medicine. She is anesthesiology and critical care. She says it's kind of like a woman with hysteria. You just slap them. Oh, no. And I'm going, you got to be kidding. So they validated. So then I come back to Tennessee and I talked to Samuel Stutz. I said, Samuel, do you bite them in Germany? He goes, no, we're not that barbaric. He goes, well, we don't bite people. He goes, what we do is, he says, we grab their earlobe and their little finger and we just crank down real good and hard. And it stops the seizure. Isn't that amazing? So how does it work? Well, what they said is it's kind of like when you're in a seizure, they're kind of going bzz, 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 and when there's another painful stimuli somewhere else, the brain goes, what's that? And it stops the seizure. So anyway, so it does not work for a brain tumor seizure. It's only epileptic, because I've tried it on somebody. I didn't bite them, but I did squeeze their finger real good and hard, and it didn't work at all. And I'd been told it didn't work, but this person did not have history of epileptic seizures. Well, no, yes, they did have they did not have a history of epileptic seizures. And so I didn't know if it's a new situation or if it's a brain tumor or what. And I tried it on them, and it didn't work. So you could use cedar wood if you want to. That might be a little easier. Sinuses, stroke, UTIs, and vaginal infections. Can reduce milk supply in lactating women, so that's important. Dilute heavily for topical use, and can cause skin irritation, which is basically the same as the one above. Cinnamon bark. Steam distillation from the bark. Dilute 1 to 3. Again, cinnamon is a hot oil. Dilute 1 to 3 at least with a carrier oil. Diffuse with caution. Will irritate nasal membranes if inhaled directly from the diffuser. So don't go snorting on it. And then you can use it in, let's say you can use it in flavoring of foods. Now, we know that cinnamon can irritate the mucosa, correct? Just like black pepper, white pepper. I do not have any knowledge of the cinnamon oil, the effect. That's something I'd like to know. I just don't know any science behind that. But because of it, we don't use it, but I'd like to know, is there a difference? An example, grapefruit. Do you allow your patients on cardiac meds to use grapefruit? No. But you can use grapefruit essential oil. It comes from the rind. It's not from the meat of the grapefruit, so it's not going to be a problem for patients on cardiac meds, is what we're told. So whether, obviously, it's not coming from the rind of the cinnamon bark, but I don't know if there's a different process there. But because I don't know, I'm safe. I don't use it internally because I don't want to mess the mucosa. The mucosa is so important to take care of. The stomach, Mrs. White says, take care of the stomach. Take care of the stomach. See, in the mucosa, the mucosa protects us from getting what? What? Ulcers. Yeah. The mucosa also helps produce digestive enzymes in that lower hydrochloric state, that lower pH. And so protect your mucosa, protect your mucosa. Antifungal, antiviral, isn't that cool? Bacteria, it's good. So it's also should be antibacterial. I don't see that there, but if it's used for bacteria, it means it's antibacterial also. It can help with cholesterol issues, colds, cooking, flu, heart issues, high blood sugar, kidney infections, low libido. Low libido many times is hormones, particularly testosterone. Check the testosterone going on. Muscle pain. If you want to deal with hormones, the best way I found to deal with hormones is for ladies. Estrogen's usually wacko. Progesterone can be wacko. Stabilize the progesterone, you'll stabilize the estrogen. And you'll also stabilize the testosterone. For males, stabilize the progesterone, you'll stabilize the testosterone. So the best way I found too, like we used to use HRTs. Remember HRTs? Hormone replacement therapy. What's one out there that we know very well? Premarin. What's Premarin stand for? Pregnant mare urine. So you're taking a pill of horse pee that has estrogen in it. Not the best thing to do, I wouldn't think. And plus the breast issues, the breast issues you're dealing with there. So then a Romanian, Dr. Tolan, that doctor that told me to bite people, Dr. Tolan, she found that 1 cup of twice cooked soy milk has the same amount of estrogen as 1 Premarin pill. But still, you're still not doing the best job at stabilizing, but it's a whole lot better than Premarin. But then there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Lee. John Lee, I think. Dr. Lee out of California. Was it John Lee? And Dr. Lee found that you had better stabilization of estrogen if you stabilize progesterone. So he would use progesterone cream. But then you still didn't have good stabilization of progesterone. So people like Cynthia Johnston and other people, Dr. Anna, you've heard of Anna's cream? Dr. Anna from Australia, then Cynthia Johnston and different ones, which Cynthia Johnston worked for Dr. Lee in California. They found if you use wild yam cream, it stabilized progesterone better than progesterone cream for the majority. There are some people I find, a very minority, that I'll have to use the progesterone cream and it will work, but usually the wild yam cream works far better. And so you then stabilize progesterone. When you stabilize progesterone, you're going to stabilize the estrogen, and you're going to stabilize the testosterone. And then what we also add to that is a quart of nettle tea a day, a quart of water, 1/4 of a cup of nettle, and then we'll use 2 tablespoons of flaxseed grind, eat within 15 minutes twice a day. Those 3 things are phenomenal in helping with female hormones. And then stabilize the hormones, it's going to significantly help the libido. With women, as y'all know, y'all got to think about it more than guys do. Y'all have to get your rest. You do better on libido issues if you're not tired. So libido's an issue out there today. And you want to, for the right reasons, it's a good thing. It's good for marriages. Muscle pain, muscle strain can cause skin irritation. Dilute for topical application. Clary sage, steam distilled from flowering plants, can be applied neat, diffused, or inhaled aroma directly. You can take it in capsule, or you can flavor your food. Anxiety, it's good for breast cancer, convulsions, endometriosis, hot flashes. So can you see an issue of hormone issues here? Infertility, insomnia, menopause, low milk supply. So we're seeing a huge issue of clary sage helping with female hormones. Parkinson's. I found the far infrared that your mom uses. I found the far infrared being extremely well for Parkinson's also. I like the sauna better. You can use the light. If you use the light, I find 700 watts seems to work, at least 700 watts. And in the sauna, you want about 1,500 watts. But I've seen amazing results with the far infrared for Parkinson's. Pink eye, PMS, again, postpartum depression, it's hormone stuff there. Prostate health, again, hormone issues. Seizures, and uterine health. Now, caution during early stages of pregnancy. So you want to be careful there because it affects the hormones. Clove. Who's used clove oil for toothache? Any? It works, doesn't it? It works fairly good. Depends on how bad it is. But clove is good. Steam distilled from a bud or a steam. Common application, dilute 1:1 for topical use. I usually just put it straight on there. But be careful, don't stick it on the tongue. It'll numb your tongue too. Diffuse with caution. Will irritate nasal membranes if inhaled directly from the diffuser, orally, and flavoring in food. Now look at this. Antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, antiparasitic. It's also, clove is very good to kill cancer. It's anti-cancer. Brain support, cavities, circulation, colds, hypertension. And again, if it's hypertension, you want to get to root cause. Don't just use this to mask and manage. The number one cause, again, we talked about this earlier. Number one cause in hypertension. I'm mentioning it again because it's such an issue. Number one is stress. Number two, dehydration. Number three, outside ideal body weight. Number four, probably liver issues. Kidney issues. The kidneys are the switches that regulate the blood pressure. Salt, that can be an issue, especially if you're eating Morton salt. If you have atherosclerosis, you just have smaller plumbing, and so it's going to increase the pressure. You want to wash the car with your water hose, you want to increase pressure, put a smaller tip on the end. That's going to increase pressure. Same thing in the body. If you go from an 1.5-inch pipe down to a 3/4-inch pipe, pressure's going to go up. The other is arteriosclerosis. Now, if you have a vessel that expands under pressure, then that internal pressure is not going to be as bad because the expansion then allows the pressure for going down because the pipe got bigger. And so now you went from a 3/4-inch pipe to a 1/2-inch, 3-inch pipe. And so that's fine unless you have arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries. Now you have a rigid pipe. And now when the pressure goes up on the pump, then the pressure goes up inside. And so that can increase hypertension. And the other to look at is there cardiac issues. And is there heart issues that are causing the hypertension? If it's cardiac issues, probably one of the best things to address that with is hawthornberry. Hawthornberry works both for hypotension and hypertension. So it works both for low blood pressure and it helps to normalize. Just like fiber helps you if you have a loose stool, diarrhea, or if you have constipation. It works both ways. Yes?
Yeah, my dad was 70% included, and after doing the test with a cardiologist, and so my dad said, well, give me some time. And so he went and looked it up, and he started taking the hawthornberry with, I think, every meal, and he did it for years. Anyways, he went back 3 months later, and he was only 30% occluded.
Wow.
So the doctor said, I don't know what you're doing, but it's working. Keep it up.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, a question over here.
What was the ratio on the hot flashes? How much nettle tea to the?
Yeah, 1 quart of water.
Right.
Bring it to a boil. Plumb turn it off. Then add 1/4 of a cup of the herb.
1/4 of a cup of the herb.
Now, to save you some money and to get extra stuff out of it, what you can do is you can make it in the evening, let it sit overnight, and then the next morning strain it off in the kitchen strainer, and then take your herb that you have and put it back in the mason jar and pour in more warm water. You don't have to have hot water because you've already fractured the cells. And then let that sit during the day. When you get home, strain that off. It's not at all going to be strong enough for a normal daily dose, but you still have quite a bit there. And so when you get home, you can drink that on through the evening, and that will just give you more of the herb. So you're not wasting that amount. Yes. Also for atherosclerosis, I had a lady come, both carotids were 75% occluded. In 2 months, she was at 25% occluded. And we used 1 tablespoon twice a day of lecithin granules. I call it Drano. At the time, I only knew of using it twice a day. I've since found that it's totally safe to use it 3 times a day, so now I recommend 3 times a day. But it's extremely fast on dissolving, and it doesn't break it off. So you have it's a slow process, just it dissolves it. And so that works real well for atherosclerosis. Yeah. 1 tablespoon, 2 to 3 times a day of lecithin granules. It can either be sunflower lecithin, or it can be, since some people are concerned about sunflower, and so you can use sunflower lecithin.
Recommendations for glaucoma?
On glaucoma, what they're finding, glaucoma is the pressure goes up because the sewage system's clogged up. And there's a doctor out in California, I'm pretty sure, is where yes, he's in California, he's a surgeon. And he found, his wife's a nutritionist, and they found that if you unclog the toilet, then the pressure goes down. Now, this has been done in China and Asia for years. You just put a drop of lemon juice in your eye in the morning and a drop of honey at night, and it does the same thing. But don't do that if you have any scarring or any cuts or anything in the eye. That's not good. So if there's no issues of cuts or anything in the cornea or whatever, you're fine. So they've been doing that in Asia for years. But it's N-acetyl-L-carnitine or Zine, one of the two, and it's called Can-C. Can-C. And you put 2 drops twice a day in the eye, and it works very well of cleaning out the sewage system in the eye, allowing the pressure then to come down. He's also found it also works well for cataracts. Works better in dogs than in humans, or faster in dogs, but it does work in humans also for cataracts.
Thank you.
It's by Wise Choice, is the name of the company, Wise Choice. Okay, there's sunflower lecithin, and there's soy lecithin. Most of the research is done on soy lecithin, so if you want to research, do the background on it, most of it's in soy lecithin. But the sunflower lecithin's now been out for a good, maybe 8-10 years, so there should be some decent research on sunflower lecithin. We're seeing more usage of sunflower lecithin now because people are just afraid of soy. And also, you make sure that it is GMO free, because soy is a GMO product, and so you want to make sure it's a non-GMO. Yes, because they're either concerned about the hormones or concerned about if you're just worried about GMO. Pardon? Okay, there's several things that have lecithin. There's a number of foods that have lecithin in it, but that's just high sources of it. Yes, your brain gray matter, I believe, is like 33% lecithin. So actually, lecithin's also going to help with brain function too, we're told. Yeah.
Sorry.
The lemongrass is good for virus.
Yes, it's a good antiviral. It's also a good cleaner. If you go to a cabin in Gatlinburg, did y'all ever watch Andy Griffith?
Oh, yeah.
And remember the time that Andy went to all these different houses and they had spaghetti for supper? And everybody had this amazing secret formula? Yeah. Well, these housekeepers over in Gatlinburg, you go at a cabin and they have somebody come and clean the cabin. Well, these people, that's their job. They're housekeepers, they're cleaners, cabin cleaners. And they all have this secret formula that makes their cabin smell the best. It's the same stuff. They come and buy it from me. It's lemongrass. Yeah, they put that in their water and it just makes it smell good.
You can take it orally or capsules? Do you have that?
On the lemongrass? Mm-hmm. I've only used it diffused. Yeah, we can look here and see. I don't remember. I've just never used it orally. I've always done it. I've always just diffused it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the lavender's good for Parkinson's too, I think I saw.
Yes.
Should have written it down.
Yeah, it's going to help with, it's calming. And so that's going to help with Parkinson's. Probably one of the best things that I found with Parkinson's is CBD oil. CBD oil, yes. I didn't use CBD oil. I had a buddy of mine, he was a physician, tried for 5 years to get me to use CBD oil for folks with Parkinson's and cancer and different things. And I was afraid they'd get high or something off of it, And it was illegal anyway in the state of Tennessee. You couldn't use it, so it had been illegal, and I wasn't interested in that. Losing my family business and over something. And so finally, they made it legal in Tennessee. And finally, I asked him. I said, "Does it make them stoned or something?" You don't know. I was just an old country boy, And I said, He goes, "No, it don't make them stoned." He says, "It's not a problem. Your legal is less than 3% of the THC, but you can also buy it. It has no THC in it at all." And so I use a product out of the University of Florida in Gainesville, Grow It, and it's overseen by a pharmacist down there, and it has no THC at all in it. And there's another company I use that has no THC. Now, that's Green Roads down in Florida, and then there's one that's called Charlotte's Web, and Charlotte's Web has THC, but it's a low level. But that works very good for Parkinson's, I've seen. Another thing works good for Parkinson's is riding a bicycle. Okay. Does that help?
Does it help you, John?
Right after you're done, it does maybe for a little bit.
Yes, it's right after. The other thing is dancing. Now, we're not much into dancing. And the other one's boxing. Now, that doesn't make a lick of sense to me. I mean, here you're dealing with a brain thing with Parkinson's. Why you want to beat your head with the brain? But boxing, dancing, and bicycle riding have been proven scientifically to improve Parkinson's. I like the far infrared sauna. I've had really good results on far infrared. FARINFRARED, I think. I can't spell. Far infrared. We do. There's mid-infrared, there's near-infrared, mid-infrared, and far infrared. And we've used mid-infrared and near-infrared for years for cancer and for light therapy. And it works well. It's a red light. Far infrared, we can't see it. Bugs, insects can see it, but we can't see it. And it's outside of our light spectrum. And it works good for a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes.
We had a person that texted me
Yes.
that wanted to know, is there any recommendation for someone with severe brain trauma? They were in an accident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first thing is don't do anything that's going to cause harm to the brain. And just try to figure out what could harm the brain. We talked about that this morning. Mm-hmm. And then you want to do what we talked about this morning to improve brain function. I would use B-complex. I would look at what their symptoms are to see, maybe what's damaged there. But the frankincense is good for brain trauma. B-complex is huge. It really is for helping the brain. Magnesium's good for the brain. The lithium's good for the brain. Those are the things I'd start with. Yes. Nutrition. Yeah, nutrition's huge. And if you want to really, just really, see, when you digest a meal, I've heard nutritionists say it can take as much energy to digest the meal as it does to go work out at the gym. Have you found that? So it takes a lot of energy. And that's why cardiologists will tell their cardiac patients or heart failure, don't eat a lot of food, because it takes a lot of energy. The cardiologist will tell you the second most energy producing that the heart does is digesting food. So if you have a patient in severe cardiac failure, don't give them a whole bunch of food. So what the cardiologists do down at UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham, the advanced cardiac team, if they have a major situation with heart failure, they'll juice them for 70 days. Because see, when you eat a regular meal, what would you say, 2.5 hours for digestion on average? Depending on what you eat. Eat raw meat and stuff like that, and chocolate's going to take. Yes. What would you say the average is?
Well, it depends really what you eat. Meat, of course, takes like 4 hours, 5 hours, or even longer.
Yes.
And plant-based food is much, much easier to digest. It's about 4 hours. Then 1 hour you have nothing, and 5 hours you can eat again.
Isn't that amazing?
Average.
How much energy is being expended for digesting some of those foods that aren't healthy for us? Yeah. Now, juicing, we're told, goes through the stomach. It's in the blood within 15 to 20 minutes. That's fast. Now, what have you found on juicing? How long do you think juicing is? Vegetable juices, juices that you have taken the fiber out and you just have the juice.
Oh, it's really fast because, yeah.
You don't have the fiber.
It goes very quickly into your blood.
Yeah, fiber's time released, you know. I mean, that's why we use, fiber with sugar, so it slows it down. Now, don't drink your juice. Now, see if this makes sense. Don't drink your juice. I have a friend, he's a physician. He says, I don't like juicing for my patients. I said, why? He said, because they miss a third of digestion. See, when you eat your food, who's ever made concrete in a wheelbarrow? Okay. Or who's ever made a cake? Okay. So you got a wheelbarrow, and you put in your saccrete, and you put in your water, and you move the hoe about 2-3 times. Is it ready to pour into the? No. Where's our concrete man? He's gone out. Oh, okay. So is it ready? No. That powder has to soak up the water. Ladies, when you're making a cake, or guys, if y'all make cakes, you got a bowl, you got your powder, you got your liquid, and you stir it about 2-3 times. Is it ready to go in the oven? No, you got to take your mixer to it and mix it to where the powder soaks up the liquid. It's like a compound. The same thing needs to happen in the mouth. So when I teach the kids, the spit has to go in the food and be absorbed into the food. It's kind of like if you had a glass of milk and you daubed your bread down in it and pulled it up, it's going to be plumb saturated with milk, yes? So in your mouth, in your saliva, you have digestive enzymes, amylase, big-time amylase, protease, lipase, the different digestive enzymes that are in the saliva. Well, if you just go and swallow that food and don't mix it thoroughly, then it's not going to soak up into the food. So when it goes into the first part of the stomach for digestion, along with the pepsin and then the first part of digestion, you're not going to have enough amylase there and lipase and protease to help with the digestion. It's not going to be in the food. It needs to be in the food to break it down. And so my friend, he said, Walt, you're missing a third of digestion if you just drank the juice. It's true. You're drinking it, and it's not being mixed with the... See, juice is food. It's just you pull the fiber out. It still needs to have the digestive enzymes to break it down. You can't take and run juice straight into the veins. And so it's got to be broke down. And so I said to the doc, I said, but what if they chewed that juice for 15, 20 seconds? And he thinks, he goes, that'd work. Because it's mixing the saliva with the juice where it's soaking it with it. And then when you swallow it, you've got more. And plus the chewing mechanism, what's it do? You squirt out more saliva. And now this is weird. Maybe you can figure this one out for me. I've asked several of my buddies who are physicians, and they found the same thing, but we ain't figured it out yet. And that is, when they chew the juice, when they drink the juice, they complain of missing the chewing function. But when they chew the juice, it satisfies that chewing function. I don't know why it's making the brain happy. I don't know. They're chewing. But so juicing, you don't want to drink it. You want to chew it and then swallow it. But if you're wanting to hit some major health issue, juicing is one of the best things I've found to really providing it. Except when I'm dealing with gastrointestinal problems, gastritis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. I don't use the raw juice, and I don't use raw food. Now, in 97, 2.5 years prior to that, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So I started taking Imuran, prednisone, like 60 milligrams for 2.5 years. Can you imagine that? I didn't get big, but I was mean as a striped snake. I was just irritable. And I get home, Mary Lou would hand me B complex. You know, I don't want to do with you. You know, I was just miserable. I mean, I felt like there's a herd of horses inside of me. And I was miserable and people around me miserable. Prednisone was terrible, 60 milligrams. And I was on it all the time. And then finally, it just quit working. Didn't work at all. I went from almost 210 pounds down to 140 pounds. My skin was grayish in color. Hemoglobin dropped down to 7.1. They couldn't get it up. A lot of bleeding. The last time they went in there, they looked at my colon. They said, Walt, you have no intact tissue in your colon. You're ascending, transverse, and descending. It's like raw hamburger meat, your whole colon. There is no intact tissue. You're going to die. That's what the gastroenterologist told me. That was in Asheville. And I thought, that's not a good thing. And so he said, we can take it out, and he said, maybe you'll live. No. And you need your colon. And so I thought, I need a second opinion. 5 years prior, God sets things in front of us, doesn't he? 5 years prior, I'd had dinner with a cardiologist. Remember the lady who used to play the harp on 3ABN? She had blonde hair. It was her husband. And so I went to him. He had told back at that dinner. Back 5 years prior, he had told me that he had had some issues and he had gone to this other doctor. And so I went to that guy. And in 6 months, my colon was totally healed. Plumb healed. And so as we... How did I get on that story? I apologize. Where was I? Well, yes, juice. Thank you. And so sometimes I forget. More water. So one of the things he had me do potato soup. Potatoes, carrots, celery, onions. Potatoes, carrots, celery, onions. And then you cook it, and then once it's cooked, like potato soup. Now, it wasn't merely potato soup. I mean, when she made potato soup prior to this, it had a stick of butter, it had half and half, sour cream, salt. I mean, it was loaded. I like black pepper in it, which wasn't good. And so it was bland. I mean, super bland, this stuff. Nothing in it, just potatoes, carrots, celery, and onions. Water, cooked, blended. A quart each meal for 21 days. Now, I didn't cheat on it, but there are days I didn't want to hear her wrath because she was afraid I was dying. And so I'd go and I'd just pour it out at the toilet at work because I just couldn't stand that stuff again. But it worked, y'all. It was amazing. Now, after that, 21 days, then he had me only eat cooked food. Cooked fruit, applesauce, pear sauce, peach sauce, anything, any kind of fruit you could cook. No raw fruit at all. And vegetables, all cooked. Nothing raw. Because he said it's kind of like if you got road rash and you take sandpaper on it, it's going to irritate it. He said raw food irritates the hamburger meat stuff. And he said you got to have cooked food or it will irritate the ulcerative colitis. And I found it true with gastritis too. And so the food was all cooked. It took 6 months. Also during that time, I did 2 ounces of aloe vera juice 3 times a day on your stomach. I did 1 teaspoon of carob powder twice a day, either in water or applesauce. Tastes better on applesauce than it did on water. And I did a combination, a colon formula. It had 2 parts psyllium whole, 1 part slipper elm, a half a part marshmallow root, a fourth of a part of peppermint, and a fourth of a part of spearmint. All those powder except the psyllium, and that's psyllium whole. Now, psyllium whole looks like ground flaxseed, so it's not whole, but it's not powder. If you do the powder, it congeals fast enough as it is. I mean, she'd hand it to me when I was shaving. And if I didn't stop shaving and drank that stuff, even with the whole, it would be like Jell-O then. And so you want to get it down. And that's what I did for 6 months. And God blessed it. And it plumb got rid of the ulcerative colitis. And juices also are raw. And it just irritates the tissue. And so if you do juices, you want to cook the juices. Like if you're going to, like a V8's cooked, or like if you're going to can tomatoes juice, you're going to cook it to can it. And so you want to cook that juice so that it won't be as irritating.
You want to know slippery elm was good for poison ivy? Slippery elm?
That's a good question, because slippery elm is extremely good for skin issues, either in the integumentary system or topically on skin issues for helping wounds heal. So it could be, I'm just not aware of it. The best thing I found for poison ivy is jewelweed. Y'all have jewelweed up here? Jewelweed is the best thing I found. The other thing I found works extremely well is once you get into it and you know you got into it, take and wash your skin really good, hard. Scrub it like you had grease on you. Yeah, scrub it off good. And then put tea tree oil in it. And that works very well if you get into it. But if you didn't, then I found charcoal poultices can help. I'll have to check on that. It's a good question. Have you seen it works?
No, it seems like a few years ago I heard somebody.
Okay, it could be. Yeah, it's something I need to check on. See, you can learn all kinds of stuff here. Yes?
Quick question on the glaucoma thing with the Can-C drops. My mother-in-law has glaucoma. My mother-in-law has glaucoma, and they have her on 2 eye drops drugs, Combigan and Lumigan. Do you have to stop those in order to use the Can-C, or can you
According to the surgeon, no, because it's totally safe. It's either N-acetyl-L-carnitine or N-acetyl-L-carnosine. It's one of the two. I don't remember. But he said it's totally safe to use with other medications.
I have a friend whose daughter came from Epstein-Barr into chronic fatigue syndrome. She's in her early 20s, and it's messed her up. And they tried everything and whatever else. I don't know is there anything you
I would juice her.
Juicer, okay.
I juice her for 60 days on vegetable juice, and because she needs just a lot of nutrition. And also look and see if her adrenals are blown. And a good chance her adrenals are blown. And you can use nettle tea. There's also a product called Adrena-Sense. Adrena-Sense. And it's got, I think, 4 or 5 herbs in it that are really good for adrenals. Adrena-Sense is also really good for fibromyalgia. We've used it on a lot of people with fibromyalgia, and it's been very beneficial.
Would the juice have pulp or no pulp in it?
No, it's juice, no pulp. Yeah, you can do like 16 ounces. Who's watched the movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead? Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Yes. You can either go to our website, themustardseed.us, go to education, go down. I've got different movies on there, and you can watch it there. Or you can go to www.fatsickandnearlydead.com. Watch movie 1. Movie 2 is not worth watching. He messed up on that one. And he knows now. He should just throw it away. basically what he said was in movie 2 was, once you get fixed, then you can eat anything, moderation in everything, shrimp, whatever you want to eat. Well, then he said, well, people get worse again. So that's not a problem. Just reboot and pay him for the reboot program. Well, that's a money thing. Leave number 2, but 1's very good. It's a documentary on juicing. Yes, sir.
What about benign polyps in the gallbladder?
In the gallbladder? I don't know. I don't know how to get rid of the polyps in the gallbladder. Now, I did have a lady that I mentioned last night that I think I mentioned it. Did I mention it here? Polyps in the colon. Did I mention that? She came in Wednesday, and she came in and gave me she started to give me a hug, and then she backed off. And she goes, wait a minute, I got to give credit to God first. Then she says, okay, I can hug you. And then she gives me a big old hug. And she came in 3 years ago with colon polyps, with quite a few colon polyps. And they'd been cutting them out, and she kept growing more colon polyps. And she had cancerous polyps. And the formula I just mentioned, the gallbladder, the colon formula with the slip around marshmallow root and that peppermint and all, she's been taking 2 tablespoons of that every day for 3 years. And her colon issues have been much better. She had IBS, it went away. And Wednesday, she went to the gastroenterologist. No polyps, no cancer, nothing. And so I know nasal polyps. Dr. Jackson found that when you use a neti pot with blackstrap molasses, now not plum blackstrap molasses, put blackstrap, say a teaspoon in a glass in the water and stir it up and then use it that way. I wouldn't put it plum. But using that gets rid of nasal polyps. But for the gallbladder, I can tell you how to do a gallbladder cleanse. It works extremely well, both to get rid of the stones and to cause the gallbladder sludge, whatever. Works very well. But I don't know how to get rid of the polyps yet. I couldn't tell you. See, we got to keep learning physiology, learning how to do it, and we just keep learning. Okay, chigger bites or prevent chigger bites?
Both, but the bites especially.
Okay, to prevent chigger bites. Okay, the question is chigger bites.
Thank you. Yeah, chigger bites.
The first thing is to prevent them. Now, I'll tell you what the mountain men do. I don't recommend it, but take that philosophy. You take a handkerchief and daub it down in kerosene, and then you tie it around your ankles. Because chiggers usually come from the ground up, and they don't like smell of kerosene. You can do the same thing with essential oils on that handkerchief that they don't like. And what do they not like? They don't like peppermint. They don't like cedarwood. They don't like echinacea. Eucalyptus. And so use the same oils like you would for other insects. Put that around on your pants, legs, whatever. And that can help to prevent them from hopping up on you. To treat them, I would do the tea tree oil. Yeah, I would use tea tree oil. I know people will take clear fingernail polish and seals it off. I would do the tea tree oil. Or some of those go again to the, you have Natural Remedies Encyclopedia?
Where are we getting it?
Okay, good. You can get that from Kent. Kent's got them. He got the last 2 cases. I tried to order them Thursday, and they're out. They're plumb out. Don't even know when they're coming back in. So I think it's 371 where it talks about scabies. I would use the same essential oils that you would use for scabies. And there's a real good formula in there that has about 5 or 6 essential oils. And mix those together. That works really good. But tea tree, if you just had one, I'd use tea tree. Okay. You're welcome. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Got a question back here.
Is it okay to eat raw all the time?
I would venture to say that Eve didn't have a stove. But talk to the gal just two seats down from you. She will tell you that some food has more nutrients cooked. Like carrots. There's more beta carotene when it's cooked. Tomatoes. More like, what is that, lycopene in tomatoes? There's more cooked. And so there are people who just plumb eat raw. But there are some foods. Now, eating plum raw for a while is not a problem. I found it to be very beneficial to the body. I feel better raw. I feel better when Mary Lou fixes me 85% of my food raw. I feel better. Cooked food just bothers me. It bothers her. But don't eat beans raw. Beans, unless you sprout them. You know, don't eat rice raw. Oatmeal, don't eat oatmeal raw. See, your grains have to be cooked or sprouted because there's a chemical in them called, in grains called phytic acid. And you've either got to cook it or sprout it out. Phytic acid is a thief, and it will steal nutrients. And so you want to, remember Miss White said, cook your grains long? There's a reason for that. Or like bananas. A banana with spots on it, there's no problem. But a banana without spots on it, either yellow or green, that banana has to be cooked to eat. Because it has a chemical in there that once it has spots on it, the chemical starts going away. It goes away. But that chemical stops pepsin from doing its job in the first part of digestion. So anything in the food at that time with a green banana or a yellow banana that's not cooked, you stop the pepsin doing its job. But, pardon? Oh, you just let it ripen. Just let it ripen until it has, little spots on it. Yes, people call them freckles on the bananas. So there is some foods, especially your grains. You've got to cook them or sprout them. And then again, some foods have more nutrients when cooked. Some of them, and help me out here, because that's our expertise.
Some nutrients are better reachable for the body when they're cooked.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you could eat them raw, and it's good to eat them raw too, because the vitamins are not destroyed by heat. But with other things, you can reach them easier when they're cooked.
That's right. So whether it's, and again, the carrot and the tomato are excellent examples. There's some things in the carrot and the tomato that you get more eating it raw. But there's some things in the carrot and the tomato that you need to cook it to get those out. On the one this morning I did on stress, we just didn't have time. If I had gotten to it, as we're looking at some of the nutrients that we need for the brain, some of the foods, you need to cook it in order to get those nutrients out. If you eat it raw, you're just not getting those nutrients, just as she said. Yeah. Any other questions? Good questions. What do y'all want me to do? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I heard that these oils also can cause miscarriage. What do you say to that?
It is true. Some of the oils stimulate, just like some of the herbs, not just oils, but some of the herbs will cause contractions. Let's say blue cohosh, black cohosh. You do not want to use those early on because you will start contractions. Now, I had this poor girl come in one time, and her belly was, she is ripe as could be. And she says, I want that out today. And I said, you need to wait on God. She says, no, I want it out today. Just an old country girl. She says, I heard black cohosh and blue cohosh would work. And she says, I'm going to make a quart each. I said, no, ma'am, you're not. And she wouldn't believe me. So I called a good friend of mine, a very, very good midwife. And I said, let's let a lady talk to this girl. And so I called up Kathy, and I said, Kathy, come please talk to this girl. She's wanting to take, a quart of each. She says, no. And I said, talk to her. So she talked to her. And so she told her she could, other things that she could do. So some of the herbs you have to be careful. There's an herb in Asia that the females will use for aborting. So it's in the high mountains. So the girls will hike up in the high mountains and they'll take this herb. Now, if it's been a drought, I believe it is, it's stronger. It'll kill mom too. But if it's normal weather and she takes it, it will abort the child. So you're right. There's something, just like we looked here, some herbs will slow down lactation. Some things will increase lactation. Did I mention fenugreek? Did I talk to you all about fenugreek and lactating? We mentioned. Okay, so Mary Lou will have ladies, and I let Mary Lou talk to the ladies about that stuff. They won't talk to her. They don't talk to me about it. And so these girls will come in, these ladies will come in, and they're not producing enough breast milk. And so a lot of times they just want to quit. And the doctors say, well, I got formula for it. No. And so we'll use fenugreek. We'll use mother's milk, was an herb. You can use alfalfa. You can use fenugreeks, feverfew. There's several herbs you can use. But fenugreek's the big one. She can actually get ladies who adopt to be able to breastfeed the children. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? And so these ladies come in, they adopt a child, and they're able to breastfeed the baby. Now, what's the advantages? The connection with mom and baby, but the biggest thing is the nutrition. We find that babies that breastfeed are less prone to gastrointestinal problems, less prone to less skeletal problems. They're less prone to cardiovascular problems and later on in life. There's a number of reasons. That's the best formula. It's baby formula. Don't drink cow's milk. That's cow formula. It's a total different protein. If you want to do one, goat milk is the near, but don't do cow milk. To answer your question, it's not essential oils, it's the herbs. Whether you take it as an essential oil, or you take it as an extract, or you take it as just a bulk herb, it can cause contractions. And for that reason, you don't use those until you need to use those. And then you can use them. As long as once you get past that safe time, then you can use those herbs. And then let's say you're past that, that 9 months, and you need to encourage things on, and you don't want a section, and your midwife she only has a window that she can deliver, at least in the state of Tennessee. If it's too early, she can't deliver. If it's too late, she can't deliver in the state of Tennessee. So you can use those herbs in that time frame that do what you're talking about, that can stimulate contractions and help that child to come on. Okay. I went to one church one time. I was in Michigan. And the preacher and his wife picked me up in the car, and they were hauling me up to their area, and they wanted to find out what I was like. So they asked me, do I believe in essential oils? I said, it's just herbs, sure. That lady got so mad at me, she didn't come to any of the meetings that whole weekend. And he was mad at me and didn't hardly speak to me the rest of the time. Why are you upset at me? Have you ever used lavender essential oil? Yes. Well, why are you upset? Have you ever clove oil? Yes. Then why are you upset at me for talking about essential? And they didn't even ask me to talk about them like y'all did. But just because I believed in using essential oils, they said New Agers use them. New Agers use them. So it's got to be of the devil. And I said, well, New Agers, they're big into water. I said, New Agers, they're big into a whole food plant-based diet. But for some people, they think essential oils are this spooky, weird stuff. It's not. You've got herbs. You're either going to eat them or use them like in their natural state, or you're going to make an extract, or if you want to make them super strong, then you can make an essential oil. But it's no weird voodoo stuff. It's just herbs. So treat the essential oils like herbs on steroids, though. They're super powerful. So as you look at using essential oils, be cautious with them because they're just super, super powerful. Be careful. Don't take too much. Where there's a huge fairway. Y'all know what I mean by fairway in golfing? There's a good fairway in the bulk herb. And even in the extract, there's a decent fairway. But once you get in the essential oils, it's so concentrated, the fairway's not as big. And so use what's recommended. Any other questions? There's a question here, then a question back there, then a question here. All right.
Just a quick question on Graves' disease.
Yes.
What do you recommend? Because, I have to take stuff to keep my thyroid stuff down. And I don't want to.
Yes. Here's what I find on the thyroid. Again, we talked about protect the organ or the system from harmful things. So here's what can harm the thyroid. Chlorine.
What?
Chlorine.
Chlorine, as in going swimming?
Chlorine in any form.
Oh boy.
And they've now found that you can actually ingest more chlorine in taking a hot shower than in just drinking the water because it's what? Aerosol, like an aerosol. And you're breathing that in. It's hot, and you're hot, and you've got more vasodilation, and so be careful if you have thyroid issues of taking in chlorine, fluoride, and bromide. Now go back to chemistry. Chlorine, fluoride, and bromide are lower on the chart, so that means they're bigger than iodine. No, I'm sorry. They're above, they're smaller, so they're up here. They're above iodine. Iodine's down here, just the opposite. I had it backwards. So fluoride, chlorine, and bromide. Bromide is a dough enhancer, a dough preservative. It's also in soft drinks and other foods. What else is bromide in? You familiar with bromide? It's in food stuff. What they do is where the thyroid will absorb iodine, they clog that receptor. And you can't absorb iodine very well. That's what the physicians tell us that do natural iodine treatment. So you don't want any water or any toothpaste that has fluoride. You don't have a swimming pool or drink water or take a shower, and in chlorinated water or fluorinated water or fluoride water. And then you don't want to have foods that have bromide. The next thing, how many of y'all have heard of Dr. William Davis? He's a cardiologist. William Davis. He's done a lot of research on wheat since 1990. And Davis found on his cardiac patients who also have thyroid issues that the American wheat causes problems with thyroid function. And now we're seeing more and more people who are talking about treating thyroid naturally, saying to be gluten-free. Those are the stuff to stay away from. Now, what does the thyroid need? What's your TSH?
I don't remember. I could look it up and tell you later.
Ballpark?
I don't remember.
Okay. So if you use iodine, be careful with iodine.
I don't use it now.
Be careful with iodine unless your TSH is well over 3. But what you can use, though, is you can use zinc, selenium, and L-tyrosine. L-tyrosine, it's an amino acid. I have no idea. L, then T-Y-R-O-Z-I-N-E. I-S-N-E? Okay. Okay, great. I'm just a bad speller, y'all. So L-tyrosine is very good for thyroid function. So you've got zinc, and if you do a lot of zinc, you may want to take a little copper, 3 to 5 milligrams of copper, because remember, zinc depletes copper. And then you've got the selenium. So on zinc, you're looking at 30 to 50 milligrams of zinc. On the selenium, you're looking at 200 to 400 micrograms of selenium. And on the L-tyrosine, you're looking at 500 milligrams of L-tyrosine. Vitamin C is also good for thyroid function. So that's going to support the thyroid. What also messes with thyroid function is stress. It just does. Stress really messes with thyroid. And so managing stress is really important. I've also found that juicing has really helped with people with thyroid issues, doing a 60-day juice fast. We just see a good benefit with that. The vegetable juice. You could add a little apple, but mostly vegetable juice. I'm not a big fruit juice on a therapeutic because of the amount of fructose in it. And so I stay more on the kale, spinach, parsley, cilantro, carrots, celery, cucumbers, ginger, lemon, beets, cabbage, those kind of guys. You know, like cauliflower don't juice good. So you want things that have liquid. Okay, you're welcome. Who? Okay.
I was just curious if you have maybe a list of sources for where you get minerals, vitamins, and what have you.
The best mineral that I found, I learned from the doctor I went to when I had the ulcerative colitis, and it comes out of Utah, and it's concentrates minerals. I think it's called concentrates. And it's a great source of minerals, does a good job. A lot of naturopathic doctors use that company also. It's just a good product.
Essential oils?
Essential oils? Again, you want a good quality one. I'm cautious on that one, saying which one, because I just mentioned what it's good for, and I can't mix the two together. Talk to me later. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? There's another question back here someone had. There we go, back here.
Anyway, yeah, it's on. It's a little hard to talk about, but a little while ago, I was diagnosed with basically a candida imbalance, and I've tried what she recommended, and it's not really working. So I'm wondering what you might be able to add.
The best thing that I have found for candida, and for years we tried all kinds of stuff, and we were hitting foul balls. I mean, it just wasn't working. And what I finally found hits home runs. It really works well. And that is food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Doing a candida diet, which doesn't have yeast, it doesn't have the sugar, so no sugar, no yeast. And she can tell you the candida diet better than I can. But the hydrogen peroxide, y'all have any more water I could grab from you? Thank you. Oh, do I have another one up here? Oh, good, thank you.
Keep reserve.
Thank you. And so the hydrogen peroxide diet, product for candida, it just works very, very well. And so what you do is you have to have food-grade hydrogen peroxide. You can't use what's at the drugstore. It has a stabilizing chemical in it that's toxic. It's poisonous. And so it has to be food grade. And you can get that at your local health food store. 35%. That's right, 35%. If you got a well, don't pour Clorox down it. Pour food-grade hydrogen peroxide in it to clean it out. You don't have the Clorox down there. Chlorine. So here's how you do it. For cancer, I'm a lot more aggressive. I can go up by 3 drops a day. But for candida, I can only go up 1 drop a day. It's too crazy. It's too fast. And you'll get a Hertz syndrome. Even going up 1 drop a day, you'll get a Hertz syndrome. So what you do is the protocol is say 5 ounces. Why 5 ounces? I have no idea. But anyway, enough that you can palate it. Water. And they say distilled water. I don't know, it has to be distilled water. It doesn't have to be distilled water, I can tell you that, I know fact. But 8 ounces, whatever you can tolerate of water. Now for cancer, we'll use almond milk because we're getting up in high doses with cancer and it just makes you nauseous. And so the almond milk you can tolerate in the stomach a whole lot better because it's much higher than what we're doing for Candida. So you do, let's say you take 6 ounces of water. You do it 3 times a day on an empty stomach. 3 times a day on an empty stomach. But then it's going to sound kind of crazy because I said you could use almond milk. That's not an empty stomach. Or you could put some crackers, or you could do some aloe vera, or you can do some ginger if it makes you too nauseous. That's not an empty stomach, but at least not with a bunch of food. So you do, say, 6 ounces of liquid, 1 drop 3 times a day on an empty stomach, day 1. Day 2, 2 drops. Day 3, 3 drops 3 times a day. And you keep increasing by 1 drop a day. When you get somewhere between day 10 and day 20, usually it's around day 15, day 16. It can vary. Around day 15, day 16, you might come in and say, Walt, I can't do this no more. I feel like I've been beat with baseball bats. And what happens is you're now into the die-off. And it gives you a Hertz syndrome. That's Dr. Hertz, Hertzheimer, who figured that out. And so what's happening is you're having a die-off, and it feels like flu-like symptoms. They'll last about 3 to 5 days. So let's say it's day 16. So then what you do, you go back 1 day. Then now, until those symptoms are gone, you do 1 day less, so 15 drops, 3 times a day for those many days. Once the symptoms go away, then you can go back up to day 16, 17, and you're going up to 25 drops 3 times a day. Now, if you had cancer, you're going up to 50 drops. There are people who go up to 100, 150 drops 3 times a day. I don't recommend that. I recommend only 50 for cancer. But there are people who do much higher and have very good results, but I don't recommend that. It's a lot. So the protocol is, the water, go 1 drop a day and keep going up 1 drop a day until you get to where you get the Hertz syndrome. Drop down 1 day and stay there until in 3-4 days when it's gone, and then keep increasing until you get to 25 drops 3 times a day. Stay there for 1 to 2 months. Pray. Ask God how long you need to stay there. Very important. And then once you're finished, then come down by 1 drop a day. And protocol is then you stay at 3 drops 3 times a day as a maintenance. It's the best thing I found. It works quite well. Yeah. But again, you can't just do the hydrogen peroxide. You've got to use her formula on the diet. You really do, because you don't want to feed the diet yeast. The yeast. You don't want to feed it yeast. You don't want to feed it sugar. And so she can tell you what the diet is for that. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yes?
The hydrogen peroxide that sometimes can give you that bloated feeling.
It will. So people will use aloe vera juice. They'll use ginger and help calm it down. They'll use peppermint tea, various things, especially when we get up in the cancer levels. We see, but even in the Candida level, it's not uncommon when I have folks when they hit day 8 drops, they're starting to feel nauseous. They are. The question is which is worse? The Candida, living with that, or doing this over a short period of time and getting over it? But hydrogen peroxide can bother people's stomach, as we just talked about. Now, put it up away from kids. Put it in the freezer. It won't freeze. But away from children. We don't want kids drinking it. If it gets on your fingers, it will turn them white, plum white. Wash it off immediately because it can burn. Yes. My wife uses it for if she wants to make a cake rise or something like that, you can use it for that. Works good for that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I have a question
early November, and she's sending all this information. She's all over this, and it's the first time I heard of it and everything else. It's kind of weird, a little bit, because she's also into some whatever, so it's like one of those people that love her to death, but you get some stuff. Anyways, so I trust what you have. Is there any little overview about that as far as the safety of it? And what
yeah, just do the standard protocol, and it did work well for COVID. Yes, but it's excellent for malaria. Okay. Excellent for malaria. It's good for a lot of different health issues.
And she also mentioned about using the food grade peroxide for nebulizing. That.
Yes,
that's fine. That's
yes,
fine.
It is.
It's pure.
Just follow the protocol.
Okay.
Yes, follow the protocol. And so if you want to dilute it down from 35%, you just add water to make the ratio. If you want less than 35%. Some protocols say that you only want 3%. Right. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I got a text from somebody who's asking if there is a book you wrote or if there is something you recommend where all of this wonderful information is condensed so you have it.
I was writing a book, and I was about halfway done, and then I decided to go back to school, and so I'm working on another degree, and that's taking a lot of my time, and it's a 5-year program, and this degree is, and so it's I'm about halfway through, so it's going to be a little while. But yes, the book's on the way, but I got to get this degree over first. School takes a lot of time.
What were you saying about what was good for COVID when you were talking with him? What was the COVID?
Okay, we were talking about nebulizing hydrogen peroxide, food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Oh, it was the MMS. MMS.
What was it again?
It's a long word. MM, like Mary, Mary, Sam.
Oh, okay. MMS.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? That's what I'm here, y'all. It's two different items that you can put together. They're very cheap. It's extremely cheap. And I don't use it. I should use it myself. I had a friend who was a chemist that used to make it. I used to get it from him, sell it. And then he got Alzheimer's, and so that put him out of business. I should use it more for folks. I just haven't used it like I should.
What's your chemicals?
I don't remember.
Mineral supplement, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's right, yes.
I think that was the major treatment for malaria.
Yes, yes.
Of course, there's a lot of stuff out there to try to...
Oh, absolutely.
knock it down.
FDA hates that stuff.
You know it must work great.
Yes, yes, FDA hates it.
Natural and cheap.
Any other questions, y'all? Let me show y'all, I don't know if I can. Is our guy still back here? Let me show you a real quick movie before we quit. I was going to show it tomorrow, but it's a lot easier to show tonight. It's not very long.
So, where's it at?
You got the jump drive there. Okay, I don't see it there. I have to put it from my computer over to the jump drive tonight. We can just look at it tomorrow. Any other questions before we close? I think that's pretty well it. Oh, yeah, one?
What, you talk about olive oil. Everything I've read, watched, and heard, many last years said that most of the olive oil in the United States is vegetable oil.
Now, I know that there's a lot of talk that olive oil may not be what they say it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, 60 Minutes did a program on it, I know, like 3 or 4 years ago. They said it's supposed to be different types of vegetable oils with a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, so we can legally call it olive oil, and then some food coloring.
Using oil is probably not the healthiest for us. Mary Lou, have you ever used a wok? You can put water in a wok, and if you want to cook that way. Mary Lou bakes more, and then they've got these new dry, what are they called? Air fryers. And those work really, really good. And so a lot of our menus have a lot of oil in them, and they're probably not the best menus for us. So staying away from the oils, we want to be careful. Yes?
I was just going to say that we used to cook a lot with oil too, and we cut that out. What's it been, a year now? Yeah, okay. And we cook, the water works very well.
It does.
So, you can fry things up with water, just put a little bit in there, and it's amazing how well it works.
Yes.
So, yeah, just a little bit at a time. You just add a little bit as you're frying your vegetables, and it really does, so, because you don't want to soak it. So it's really easy to cook with water.
Yes.
Yeah, especially once you get used to it.
Yes.
We had another question texted in. Is your opinion on the use of CBD oil with dementia or UTI?
For UTI, as a treatment, or is it a problem contraindication? If I had a UTI issue, I'd recommend the D-mannose. 1 teaspoon every 2 hours. You can use as much as 2 teaspoons every 2 hours. If it's really bad, then we'll use 2 teaspoons every 2 hours, and then a teaspoon of Alimed 2 to 3 times a day. But normally we don't have to get to that. Usually 1 teaspoon every 2 hours does the job. It works on any kind of urinary tract infection. It works on IC, interstitial cystitis, and also it works on Honeymoon syndrome. It works well for that. Dementia, I've heard it can be beneficial for dementia. For dementia, the best thing I know of is blueberries. Blueberries has the most research on it of having benefit. They did studies on, as a prevention, they did studies on mice with blueberries. And they took the mice and you had your control group and your blueberry group. And the control group, when they got in their dementia age, started having problems with the maze. The blueberry group, even into geriatrics, did not have problems with the maze. Alzheimer's Disease Association, they have quite a bit of information on blueberries for dementia because it's been so successful, and actually seeing not only slowing down the dementia, but also having some reversal. I did a study back in 1985 with Alzheimer's, and I think it's around 35 patients, and they're all feeder patients. We had to make more money, we opened up a daycare, Alzheimer's daycare at work, just as another ancillary revenue. And so in the daycare, what I did is I had the staff do 2 things. One, do Jeopardy-like questions of their teens and 20s throughout the day. And then we gave them these little, like Tupperware, little round things you open up and you put squares and circles and whatever in. And they would put those in there throughout the day. At the end of 3 months, every patient was able to feed themselves. Now, I don't know what happened after 3 months because I didn't like it. I was in West Palm and I didn't like it there, and so I just missed the mountains and I came back home. So I don't know if they continued the research or not to see what other benefits they had. We do know that it said that 1 tablespoon twice a day of coconut oil, regular cooking coconut oil, is beneficial for Alzheimer's. There has been research there. There have been research that lithium orotate has been beneficial in using. But the first thing you want to look at, once you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, see, we used to call it OBS, Organic Brain Syndrome. And then it was kind of the cool thing when they called it Alzheimer's. There were some Hollywood folks that had it, and Mama has Alzheimer's. Well, we actually found it was a trash can diagnosis. And Dr. James Green in Knoxville, Tennessee at Park West Hospital, he made world news when he found that he found 20-some diagnoses that other than Alzheimer's, but they've been diagnosed as Alzheimer's. And the biggest one was a B12 deficiency. And a B12 deficiency can do two major things. It can give you short-term memory loss, and also can give you numbness in fingers and toes, hands and fingers, in distal areas. And so I had a lady come in from Knoxville one time, and she says, "Mama's got Alzheimer's. What do you recommend?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "What's her B12?" I said, "Don't know." I said, "Go back and get me a B12 first, then we'll attack it." She called me. She didn't come back. She called me, and she said, I don't think she came back. I don't remember, but I think she just called me 2 weeks later. She said, "Mama's a whole lot better." She said she had a B12 deficiency. They gave her B12 shots, and she doesn't have the dementia. And so Green, there's actually a medical doctor in Knoxville that he self-diagnosed himself with Alzheimer's back in the early 80s and sold his practice. And then he went to Green, and Green checked him, and it was just a B12 deficiency. Guy started to practice again, started up another practice. So as you look at, you're going to want to look at a number of things there. But I would look at B12 deficiency. I would look at blueberries. That has been beneficial. And look at the Alzheimer's Disease Association. Go to the website, and you can see the research there on blueberries.
What are your best sources for the B12 as far as what you found?
That's a good question. There's cyanocobalamin and methylcobalamin. Cobalamin means B12. Cyno means there's cyno or methyl. Cyno does not cross the blood-brain barrier, and was it you that said earlier about B absorption, methyl absorption? Maybe it's the lady that just left, talking about methyl versus cyno absorption in B vitamins. You want methylcobalamin. Just put methyl. Just say methyl B12, because B12 cobalamin is B12, and so methyl B12, and you have better absorption. Also, you never want to use B12 pills, because we have terrible absorption down in the gut of B12, mostly based on the standard American diet. It causes poor absorption of B12. Sublingual is the way you want to go. You want to do the sublingual liquid under the tongue and hold it there, and then for a little while, then swallow it. Sublingual is much better. Micrograms, just depending on how low your B12 is. But the standard is around 5,000 a day. Some people do 5,000 twice a day, but it just depends on what your B12 level is. Yeah.
It's like vitamin C too. You don't want to take it all at one time. You want to take it more.
Yes, because vitamin C only has a half-life of 30 minutes. So you want to take it throughout the day. Like hawthornberry only has a half-life of 4 hours. So if you're using hawthornberry, don't take a bunch at once. Take, say, your 2 capsules 4 times a day. And you have better absorption that way. Let me address something real quick. Is your friend coming back? Okay, so you can share this with her. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. There's 3 major things that I have found that causes type 2 diabetes. Address those 3 things, diabetes goes away. Over 98% of the time, it will go away. The 3 things are, so here's how it happens. You have trillions of cells in your body, and you have a little door that opens. You have trillions of cells, and on the cells you have insulin receptors. And they got, we'll say it's a little door that opens. And what happens is you've got glucose in the blood, you've got insulin in the blood, and so when the cell starts getting lower on glucose, the door just, insulin allows the glucose to go into the cell, and everybody's happy. 3 things that I found so far that causes this process not to work. Number 1 is where the cell gets too big, and that's the majority of the time, but not all the time. Majority of the time, the cell gets too big. Have you ever tried to open a window or a door in the wintertime and it gets stuck? And okay, yes, That's what happens here. The door gets too big, the door just doesn't open right. And so what's the problem? The cell's too big. So what do you need to do? Shrink the cell. Now, is that rocket science? That's not rocket science. So bring the body back into ideal body weight. Real simple. Now, what's ideal body weight? You can look at BMI, body mass index, or more accurately, I think, is percent body fat. Which do you use? What do y'all use? Percent body fat? It's just more accurate. But you're on the medical side, they've done all the research on BMI. I had a guy come in. This guy, he looks like an Angus bull. Now, he's a white guy, but I mean, he is like, and he breaks, or he broke, he passed away a few years ago. He was 80-some years old when he died. But prior to that, in his 50s, 60s, 70s, he was breaking the Guinness Book of Records every year in martial arts. And he broke blocks and bricks and boards, anything. I mean, he broke them. And he was the best in the world. He would go all over Europe. And this guy had his PhD in theology. And they would let him to go into Muslim countries and share the gospel, proselytize. And they didn't mess with him because he was the best in the world in that type of martial arts. Now, we had different beliefs in some things, but he was a Christian. He was sharing Christ, and that's a good thing in those countries. Well, this guy was, I mean, he was like strong and big. I mean, he was big. And if you did a BMI on him, I did. He was off the chart. You do a percent body fat on him, and he was down there. I mean, it was just muscle. So if you want to, the average person, yeah, you might do fine on a BMI. But if you want to really get accurate, go to percent body fat, and she'll show you what to do.
She had a patient where the doctor said, you're too heavy, you need to lose weight because your BMI is too high. He was just well built. Mm-hmm. And she was like, nah, you're fine. Just do this a little bit and this a little bit and you'll be just okay.
Exactly. And so that's where the medical side versus the sports side. Now, if they're a sports medicine physician, they understand percent body fat. But the other docs that aren't into sports side, they don't, because the research is in BMI. That's the standard of practice. Use BMI. But over on this side, I believe it's better. I've just seen it. So you can look at percent body fat. How do you find out your percent body fat? Go down to the gym. They got a little thing you can hang on to, or you can stand on, and it will tell you what your percent body fat is. So you want to shrink that. You're shrinking the fat. You're shrinking that cell down. Now, the second cause is when there's too much fat in this door. Now, what I'm talking about. Have y'all ever, who's ever driven a tractor? Okay. You know what a three-point hitch is? It's the three-point hitch on the back. Remember the top hitch? You crank it to adjust your implement up and down? Okay, you ever been out bush hogging and raining and mud? It kind of gets, the grease gets bad and it's harder to turn. So you take it apart, wash it off real good. We use gasoline or kerosene or something. Put it back on and grease it up good, and it turns good. Well, that's what you need to do, is you want to clean that fat out of there. Again, where I live, we fry everything, or we pour oil in it. And because of the standard American diet, pizza, cheese, meat, hamburgers, French fries, onion rings, whatever, we eat a lot of oil in the standard American diet, the SAD diet. That fat clogs this up. So all you do is just don't eat fat. Just don't eat fat for a while. Concrete mix. You got a concrete mixer. It's the end of the day. Do you wash it out with concrete?
No. Not unless I want it to lock up.
So what do you wash it out with?
Typically sand, water.
Okay.
The bags, from the cement.
Okay. So you don't put concrete in it to wash it out. So what Duke did, this German doctor, this guy was a genius. He really was. His name was Dr. Walter Kempner. Walter Kempner. He's the guy who put this program together back in the early 1930s. So what he did, he developed a diet that had no oil. except if your avocado had oil or your olives had oil. That's it, natural oil. But no added oil at all. Guess what? It cleaned it out. The doors start working again. The third cause of the insulin receptor not working is inflammation. Now, I don't remember if we talked about it today or not. The number one cause of inflammation, according to Harvard, did it say what it was? It's processed foods. That's what Harvard says. I don't remember if it was in today's or not. It was? Okay, I thought it was. So processed food, according to Harvard, is the number one cause of inflammation in America. Is there a lot of processed food consumption? I mean, if you're on the inside aisle at the grocery store, you're into processed food pretty well. Stay on the outside aisle. Dehydration causes inflammation. Stress causes inflammation. What did we talk about? Killed my friends? Sleep deprivation causes inflammation. So you want to research what causes inflammation and see if you're doing it. Now again, we do need some inflammation. The body has to have some inflammation for the body to work, but only a certain amount. Over that, you start having problems. So you want to address the inflammation. So what did this smart doctor over at Duke University do? He put a diet together. He adjusted it a little bit. At first, he put something together that wasn't as good, but he fine-tuned it. And I mean, it is the best reversal of cardiovascular disease diet in the world. That's what he designed it for. He designed it for malignant hypertension. And then he found it was good for other cardiac issues. And then he found his patients with cardiac issues who also had diabetes went away. And then he found that patients who had renal problems went away. I had this girl come in, 33 years of age. At 15 years old, she went on dialysis due to a complication of some medications. Can you imagine 15 years old on dialysis? So sad. She's 33 years old, and she's on dialysis, and she comes in and she says, Walt, my potassium's crazy, my phosphorus is crazy, my creatinine's 11. Can you help me with my potassium and my phosphorus? She figured she was just going to have to stick with the 11. And I said, let's see what we can do. So I took that German doctor's diet. I gave her his diet. In 30 days, and I do not know at what point during that 30 days things went good. All I know is 30 days later, she comes in and says, potassium's normal, phosphorus is normal, creatinine went from 11 to 6. Isn't that cool? That's fun to me. I enjoy that. That's cool. The best thing I did in regular health care is I opened a vent unit in Virginia that we were just having a lot of problems. If you were in a motor vehicle accident as a kid or whatever, they were not aggressive getting patients off vents. And so I opened a vent unit and we were able to wean patients off of vents. That was fun there. This is fun here. It really is. I enjoy it. So that diet that Duke does, it will clean out, it will help shrink the cell. It doesn't have oil, so it cleans this out. And for inflammation, the doctor had them go to bed at 9 o'clock. He had them drink a lot of water. He had them exercise, and he had them eating a certain diet. That diet got rid of inflammation. The sleep deprivation got rid of inflammation. They were exercising. It helped with stress. Their inflammation went down, and boom, what happened? Diabetes went away. It works. Now, yes, so let me say what it is. So here's what the diet is. If you went to Duke University, they would charge you $13,000 to eat this. $13,000. Plus, for 2 months, you have to have a hotel room because it's outpatient in Durham. That's a lot of money. So you've got this in your kitchen right now. Here's what it is. For breakfast is 1 cup of brown rice and 3 servings of fruit. What's a serving? A serving is each apple, orange, pear, or if it's little stuff like blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, it's a half a cup. Or big things like pineapple, it's a half a cup. Now, because you're doing this program doesn't mean you can start eating fruit again. If bananas and grapes run your blood sugar up, hold off on those guys. You'll get there, but just hold on a little bit. Have patience. So for breakfast, 1 cup of brown rice and 3 servings of fruit. That's it. Now, sometimes you have to negotiate, and folks say that brown rice, I mean, it's just brown rice. No salt, no nothing to flavor it. Well, I still say leave the salt out because in renal failure, hypertension, you still want to leave that salt out. But you can flavor it. So what Mary Lou does is she'll soak it overnight, and then in the morning she'll rinse it, and she'll cook it either for about 40 minutes or she'll put it in a rice cooker. And she'll put in cilantro, scallions, chopped up scallions, green onions, chopped up cilantro, and then she'll put a little bit of turmeric. And it tastes really good. It's really good. It's anti-inflammatory with the turmeric, and it's just really good tasting. And then the 3 servings of fruit. Now, you don't want to eat the same fruit all the time. You want to change it because you need a variety of nutrition. That's breakfast. For dinner, dinner's the noon meal. 1 cup of brown rice. Brown rice is the protein. And brown rice has, like wheat bran? Well, brown rice has a bran. So on the cardiac side, the brown rice bran actually helps in reversing cardiovascular disease. So it helps on the cardiac side using the brown rice. He started out with white rice, then he went back to brown rice. He went to brown rice, which is much better. People say, oh, you can't have diabetes and eat rice. Well, you can eat brown rice. It works fine. People say, oh, no, brown rice has arsenic in it. Well, so does apples. And Duke found there was no problem. Duke's been doing this program since this German doc did it since the 30s, and they don't have arsenic issues there, and Duke does a lot of really research. And I went to Duke, and I monitored their program, and I looked at all the labs that they do with this program. They didn't have any arsenic problems. So for dinner, the noon meal is 1 cup of brown rice and a nice big old salad, vegetable salad. No dressing, no oil, no salt, no cheese, no meat. Now, Duke will let you squeeze some lemon juice on it. And that's it. Again, I negotiate with people, especially men. They'll go, no way am I going to just eat that salad with lemon juice. I need something that tastes good. Okay, so what can we do? As long as there's not a major other inflammation issue out there that we're dealing with, and then though diabetes is an inflammation issue that we identified, I'll say, do you like salsa? A low sodium salsa? Make your own salsa, just don't put salt in it. And so they'll put salsa on it. And I can eat that. For supper at Duke, they do 1 cup of brown rice and then again the 3 fruit. That's it, y'all. And you paid $13,000 for 2 months for that. Crazy.
Can you put each meal in a Vitamix, blend it up, and just chew it?
You could.
Just question.
Let me tell you, and our nutritionists will tell you. I don't know if we still do it like we used to, but before we had enteral feeding with all this longevity and all this stuff that goes in the tube feeding, what we did is we took the patient's food that other patients ate, and we put it in this big old Hobart blender and blended it up. And then we syringe fed it into their NG tube or into their tube that went into their stomach. And I tell you, it tastes much different blended than when you eat it right. You would rather eat it, I promise you. Mary Lou had maxillofacial surgery where they cut her jaw plumb off, her whole jaw plumb off. She only had 2 teeth here that were matching. All the other, her teeth were like, and she couldn't masticate. And so they took the top jaw and moved it forward, took the bottom jaw, pulled it back, and then they wired it for 3 months in January, February, and March. Can you imagine? And so she would blend up stuff and squeeze it in there, and it tasted nasty. She ended up using Ensure, which insurance, I guess better than nothing. But so y'all have a good evening. Thank you. So again for the diabetes. The other thing that he did the diet. He then had them exercise 4 times a day. 4 times a day. And again, remember what Loma Linda found? A 20-minute power walk will lower the blood sugar more than 1 shot of insulin. A 20-minute power walk will lower the blood sugar more than 1 shot of insulin. So this German doctor had them exercising 4 times a day. And then he had them drinking adequate water. He had them going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. the diabetes went away. Now, I can tell you can speed that process up by two things. One, doing a water fast for 3 days. And you say, well, you can't water fast a diabetic. You can. You got to watch, you need to have someone there that knows what they're doing. It's like sliding scale is all you're doing. I mean, the diabetes doesn't make low blood sugar. It is the medication if you didn't eat enough food or you ate more food than or you took more medicine than the food you ate. That's what's going to give you low blood sugar. And so you just cut back on the meds, like sliding scale. Anything else there? Yes?
What's the duration of doing that strict of a
Good question. Good question. So that is what I call the restorative program. You stay on that program. Let's say it's just diabetes. We're not talking about cardiovascular disease. We're not talking about anything else. So you stay on that until several things happen. One, they come into ideal body weight. Again, whether it's BMI or percent body fat. And we talked about that. Number two, they have a normal A1C. Now, it's going to take 3 months to get a decent A1C. And then you have a normal glucose that's under 99 and you don't use any medication. At that point, you come off the food. If you got a person who is, let's say you got a person, I had a guy come in that was 572 pounds. Now, is that going to happen in 3 months? I hope not. I hope you don't lose it that fast. And so it's going to take a while. I met a lady at Duke, she lost 200 pounds on this program. It didn't happen in 3 months. It's going to take a while. So it depends on how large they are. And so you do it until they're in ideal body weight. You do it until so you're either looking at a BMI that's a decent BMI or a good percent body fat. And again, we talked about that. The other is
What's the percent body fat you're looking for?
a percent body fat. Give me a good percent. Give me a good percent body fat you're looking for. Non-athletic. Yeah, good question. Good question. Because we're built different. We're just built different. So give us a man and a woman.
Not totally sure, but woman is I think about 20 and man between 15. Thank you. 15, 16, something like this. But I'm not 100%
that sounds about right. It really does. Yeah. So a man about 15, 16, and a woman around 20. Women's got some extra fat that we don't have. Yeah. So you stay on the diet until ideal body weight, an A1C that's, you'd like that A1C 5.5 or lower, and then you want a glucose of 99 or less, all that without, and then no meds. And then you go from the restoration diet to the maintenance diet, which is the Cornell diet. And that's the whole food plant-based diet with variety. And that's how you manage it. Now, if you go back to what they were doing before, then you're going to get it back again. You got to keep up that good diet. You got to keep up the exercise. You got to keep up the hydration. You got to keep up going to bed on time. So those three major things that causes the type 2 diabetes, you got to keep that ideal body weight. You've got to keep the oil from the fat from clogging up, and you've got to keep the inflammation down.
But you don't have to stay on the diet.
You don't know. You come back off after that time, then you go to a whole food plant-based diet like Forks Over Knives. Like Forks Over Knives. Have you watched that? Great movie. Excellent movie. Forks Over Knives, Plant Pure Nation. Both of those are very good. You can go and watch that. So, does that answer your questions on diabetes? Okay. Well, y'all, we need to go. Folks are leaving. We're going to be back in the morning at 10 o'clock. Bring a washcloth or a washcloth. And the reason is they didn't have washcloths here. And so, but they do have towels, they do have buckets, and we'll be meeting downstairs and doing hydrotherapy. Or at least at least going through the motions so you'll see it. Would you have prayer? Would you have prayer?
Sure. Let's pray. Our kind and loving God and Father which art in heaven. Father, we thank you so much for the presentation this evening to to show the beneficial things that are in nature that you have provided for our healing. Father, we ask that you would bless us with retention of this information, that you would help us to expand this to even more things. And we ask that you'd bless us with a safe traveling home, and that you bring us back together again tomorrow safely to learn about the uses of water. Please bless us, guide us, and direct us, we pray, in Jesus' holy name. Amen.